Hello and welcome to Champ Select, your go-to competitive Legends of Runeterra podcast. I'm Alex, as per usual. Joining me are my two co-hosts, Noble.
Hello.
And Hugh.
Hello.
And today we have a very special episode. We have a very special guest, hot off a fresh 33rd place finish in this season's seasonal tournament. Hello, ClosingThyme. How are you doing today?
I'm going to be honest. I think I would feel a lot hotter and fresher if I had finished anywhere above 33rd. But I appreciate the welcome.
Today we're just going to be talking with ClosingThyme or Nico, as we're probably going to be referring to him for the rest of this. We're going to be talking about the seasonal. We're going to be talking about some of the new spoilers. We're going to be talking about the new season looking forward in general. I think we're mostly just going to, have a good time reflecting on this season, kind of sending our Empire's Ascended season, giving it a nice farewell in the back mirror. I think a lot of people are probably pretty happy to see it go, which I feel like, I don't know, it feels like I say that a lot because like people just get sick of metas.
Yeah, for sure.
When was the last time you were like really sad to see a meta go?
When TF Fizz got nerfed.
Yeah. What?
Actually? Really?
Yeah.
I was sad when Fiora got nerfed.
I was sad when Fiora got nerfed. I don't know.
Okay, but like I was pretty happy to see that go because like TF Fizz was just so much better. Like even though I liked Fiora, at the time I didn't realize that losing Fiora was going to be a consequence.
Yeah, that's fair.
That is reasonable.
My
but
girl.
I mean, look at I don't know. It's partially because of the meta it ushered in is really the bigger thing. Like we moved on, like we left that meta into the most miserable time I've ever had playing this game and all the time I've played it.
What a statement.
Yeah,
That's really
he's been here for a while.
Yeah. I've been here
on this train.
I've said it multiple times. I hate it. And we're gonna have we have receipts.
So I guess without further ado,
just imagining Lysandra like, where were you last night?
And Thresh is like,
it says here turn 4 avalanche. You texted me on turn 4 that you had a kindly tavern keeper.
So without further ado, Nico, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about the seasonal tournament you just played.
Yeah, so for those who are unaware, I'm a serial card game player, I guess. I've been playing for more than half my life at this point. I'm 23, and I think I've been playing since I was 11, when Noble actually taught me back in 5th grade. He taught me Magic the Gathering around the old
grade
kitchen
classroom.
table.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So he was the original introducer of card games into my life, and I've been playing Magic ever since.
Bad influence.
And I played a terrible influence. I mean, consider how much better my life would have been if I had never met him, really. I might be going somewhere in my life, but instead I'm getting 33rd in seasonal
Hey, remember
tournaments.
that I made you, Nico.
So I was playing competitive Magic for about 3 years in college, and then I had some pretty decent results in the last year or so. I played in a couple pro tours. I ended up like top 16ing one and top 24ing another. And then basically when coronavirus hit, I was like, okay, well, this kind of sucks. I didn't like Magic Online nearly as much, so I was looking for some other competitive outlet, and these guys were of course playing Legends of Runeterra, and they were like, come play this game, it's sick, it's like way better than Magic Online. And I was like, I don't believe you. But then I played it, and they were right. So I've been streaming some, and that's been fun, and that's
ClosingThyme on
essentially
Twitch
my card game career.
Yeah.
Well, you can't plug me this early, okay? I gotta wait a little bit.
You do have to prove yourself. Yeah.
We'll have all of the links where you can find all of Nico's content in the descriptions of wherever you're listening to this on. So
yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So 33rd, right? That's
bad.
We gotta talk about it. So how did you end up in this unfortunate situation? Can you take me through the story here a little bit?
Yeah. So I'm gonna look. I don't want to blame you because it's not your fault. But when we were talking about where I needed to be on the ladder, Because for those who aren't aware, the tie breaks in this tournament were determined by what position you were on the ladder when the seasonal tournament break happened, which was, Thursday at midnight or Friday at midnight, depending on which you want to talk about. So we were talking about where did someone need to be on the ladder at the time of that cut. And the theory was that top 100 should be immensely safe. I was talking to Alex, and Alex did some math, which I think is still accurate, that if you don't account for player skill, if you don't account for player skill, you are over 90. It was like 95% chance that if you're in in 100th place, you're a 95% chance to make it in.
Yeah.
Assuming everyone has a 50% win rate.
Yes. Now, clearly, that was not the case. I ended up in 52nd place, so I assumed that I was completely safe. And so I picked up my second loss in the 6th round. I was like, this is fine. I just need to win the next 3. And indeed, I won the next 3, so I was over the moon. I was going off, I was super happy. So I'm waiting, and then 11 o'clock rolls around my time, and I look at the standings, and it says waitlist. And I'm like, okay, all the 7-2s have to be getting this message, right? Because 52nd place had to be a good enough tiebreaker to make it into the top 32, right? No.
Right?
Not quite. It turns out I
can't hear it.
one space away, 6 LP, in fact. I needed 1/3 of a game more wins.
So sad.
Yeah, and picking up the numbers of someone else, basically, the expectations of needing above 50th place meant that the players above 50th place had to have a 67% win rate, which is absurd. Expecting the top players to have a 67% win rate is just nuts.
Yeah. I just want to say that is such huge evidence about how skill intensive this game is. I don't think that you would find that in a Magic the Gathering tournament.
Absolutely not. No,
yes.
I mean 67% is astronomically high for the top players to have. I mean, we've said that we think this game is lower variance than other card games in the past, but wow, this is some
the first receipt.
Yeah, we've got the receipt.
yeah, absolutely.
That's actually a really good point. Yeah.
So what this really means, Nico, is if you were just a little bit better.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh my
That's
God.
what I can take away from this. If I had played just a tiny bit better. No, actually, so that's the really tough thing, is because when I look back on that tournament, I truly can say I did everything that I set out to do.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
But it wasn't quite enough because I didn't ladder enough, right?
Yeah, which is really disappointing. This is pretty unique to this card game, that previous games and experiences have anything to do with the tournament that you're playing with on the day. This is not true of any other card game that I can think of. This is not a tournament structure I've ever seen before. Maybe that's mostly because I play Magic, but I mean,
it doesn't happen a lot in paper card games, and it's not even all that common in online ones. But
does it ever happen in Hearthstone?
There was a lot of you'd qualify for tournaments based on your ladder positioning, but that was just.
But yeah, that's just a qualification. It's not
it wasn't really used as a tiebreaker ever.
Yeah, and then as soon as you're in the tournament, everyone who's qualified is qualified on even footing.
Yeah. I think there was seedings a lot of the time.
Okay.
But other than seedings, which is which does matter, right? But by the time you're seeding the best player on the ladder versus the 128th best player on the ladder, it's
absolutely.
1 in 128, the 128th best player on the ladder is still amazing, obviously, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah.
How do you feel about it? Because I went on record to say that I felt good. I like the fact that tiebreakers are done by ladder, but
I love it. I actually love it. I think that it's crazy that you got shafted this hard by missing it 54th.
Yes. And I also think it's possible that 3 seasonals from now we can look back at the data and see that very, very few 7-2s
this could be
that
the
it
trend,
doesn't happen again. No, that I would not be surprised if this didn't happen again in the next 3 seasonals or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's obviously still very unlucky, even accounting for player skill. And I do like it. I hated that before. I was like, okay, I'm at 400th on the ladder. It's 2 weeks to go. I'm just not gonna play ranked. Like, I'm just not going to play the competitive format of this game because my rating is currently good enough, right? And, like, you know, there's just no reason to take, even if I think I'm like 95% to climb or stay, there's just no reason to risk it. And now there being a reason to risk it, and you having to make those calculations and keep playing, and people keep honing their skills, there's that incentive to get very high on the ladder. I think is really good for the game.
I agree completely.
Yeah, it gives you a reason to play ladder. Like,
Yeah.
And it's not like being able to go 7-2 in this tournament is a big deal.
Yeah, it's essentially having a free win.
Right? Like, yeah.
In some ways, because you have an extra loss to give, so
it's roughly equatable to a bye.
Yeah.
And you know, they're different in different ways, but like, you know, they're very similar at the minimum in terms of equity. Like, it's a big deal, especially if, you know, these great players have this high of a win rate, right? Like, you know, if you're a player at the top of the ladder, you're going to be pretty confident in your ability that you're going to be able to top 32, right? Like, we've seen multiple people make consistent top 32 finishes. Like, I don't know, we have all the evidence that this game is like incredibly skill heavy, and like the best players are consistently winning. So like, it gives people real motivation to like try and brawl with them. Basically, I think, like, you know, like if you are certain that it is a skill game, then like being rank 1 on the ladder, like might just actually mean you're just the best player in North America, right?
Yeah.
Which is not always true in other games.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's really cool. I am really excited to see if this trend continues. Yeah. Like, I would love to know the position at where the 7-2 ladder cutoff is every season.
Yeah, definitely.
Next season is going to be absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is what I will say. Like, because not only is it incredibly important to make 7-2, it is also incredibly important because the people at the top of the ladder literally qualify for Worlds.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, absolutely. It matters so much. It's really wild, and it's kind of crazy that like you can be number 1 the whole time and get caught at the end, and you know that can happen.
I'm gonna go so hard this next season.
Oh yeah,
I am so stoked for the next season. Like, I've got Worlds announcements to play for. Like, I'm just gonna annihilate this next season. I'm just gonna say it. Like,
yeah,
I'm going
absolutely.
hard this next season.
Yeah. For those of you listening, if you want my personal tip as to, you know, the best way to climb, and this is not unconventional wisdom, but I think it is almost necessary if you're going to play at volume and you need to learn decks, and, you know, say you just don't have an encyclopedic knowledge of literally every deck ever, and you need to learn something, have a Smurf. Have a Smurf. I mean, there's really no other way around it. You need another account to play on, which is a weird thing to say, but like,
no,
it's
totally crazy.
hard to not.
Yeah,
because you can't just. This is normally where you're like, oh, just play normals. You can't play normals. It doesn't work. It doesn't. Like, people don't take it seriously. Like, the
You're
amount
not going to get serious practice.
Exactly. You're not going to. Half the time you're coming against. You're going to play against meme decks. The other half of the time they're going to be playing a real deck, and then they hit a minor speed bump in the game, and they just concede because they're like, it's a normals game.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, like, I'm not going to win this one, probably, or even maybe, and they're just like, next one.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. So enough about the tournament structure. How did you feel about your lineup, and what did you play? Spoiler alert: it is also what I played, and I went 6-3.
Yeah, we had a pretty good record between us. It was Thresh Nasus, TLC, and Zoe Lee. A very, very standard lineup for the tournament.
Look, we finally just brought 3 good decks, guys.
Yeah, we did.
Look at us. Are you proud of us? Good job, team. Just bought 3 good decks.
Bought the good decks.
Yeah, they were good.
I like them.
I felt...
You can go ahead, Nico.
Sorry, I felt great personally about my lineup. Thresh Nasus is Thresh Nasus. There's not too much more you need to say about that. Honestly, my biggest question mark was Zoe Lee, and I felt like it was the deck that outperformed the most. Like, I truly felt like Zoe Lee crushed it this tournament.
Agreed. I was skeptical of that deck going in. I was looking for other things to play because I didn't like that it kind of opened up maybe a slight weakness to losing to aggro decks in our lineup. But it just felt so good.
You were waffling on Zoe Lee versus Zoe Diana.
Yeah, I just didn't have enough reps on Zoe Diana, and like it looked good on paper. I looked at the deck list and I was like, this deck has to be good against aggro, probably good against Thresh Nasus. Looks like it's good against TLC. And then the games that I played with it, I lost. And you know, when I only have time to play 10 games with each deck and I can't commit that hard to it, if I play 10 games with Zoe Diana and go like 2-8 with it, I can't play it.
Yeah, you can't play it. Yeah. Which is interesting because it actually, if I'm not mistaken, did pretty well at this tournament too, right? Like there were a few copies of Zoe Diana that made the top 32. Yeah. So I think you were probably right. Probably was a good deck.
I mean, real quick, we can take a look at the little meta share. So this is from All Shards. Compiled by Cosmic Makes Plays. That's his name?
On Twitter, something?
Yeah, Cosmic on Twitter. 40 different, getting information from 40 different people across 3 shards. So
this is not complete data.
Of one shard.
This is just a survey. Yeah,
correct. So we got 29 copies of Thresh. This is just the champions. Thresh, Nasus, and Zoe. So of the 40 decks... 29 of them, or 40, so out of the 120 decks, 87 of them had Thresh, Nasus, or Zoe. That was a really weird way to say that because 2 of those are in the deck together. But basically, 29 out of 40 people brought Thresh, Nasus, and maybe the same, maybe slightly different 29 out of those 40 people brought a Zoe deck. 27 of those people brought a Trundle Lysandra because the number of champions for both of those is the same. 16 of them brought a Asol deck. 14 brought a Lee Sin deck. 8 brought a Draven deck. 7 brought an Ezreal deck. By the way, that tells me that only 1 discard aggro deck made it.
Yeah, probably.
There's 1 more Draven than there are Ezreals. Or maybe there was like an Ezreal with something else in a couple discard decks. Here, let's look at the Jinxes.
Also possible.
There were 2 Jinxes. So that means someone had an Ezreal blank deck and then 2 people brought discard aggro, almost certainly. Unless there was a Lulu Jinx, which I highly doubt. 6 people bought Diana, so that's probably a combination of Nightfall and Zoe Diana. 4 brought Sejuani Renekton, which is Overwhelm. And then there's like a bunch of 1, 2s, and 3s. There was like a Fizz, a Braum, an Aphelios, a Katarina, an MF and a Quinn, a Shen, probably in Jarvan Shen. 2 Jarvans, I think. 3 Jarvans, actually. Must have been in one of those Asol decks.
You can kind of stuff Jarvan anywhere in the Demacia list. They just kind of... he's like an okay one-of champ, you know?
Yeah. And personally, looking at what I played against a... So 1, 2, 3, 4... 5, 6 of the, it was 9 rounds. 6 of the 7 rounds I played, my opponent was on Thresh Nasus, and I was also on Thresh Nasus. Because I got my round 1 opponent just like scooped after we hit submit, like before bans. And so did my last round opponent, because I was 5-3 at that point. So I didn't really go 6-3. I won 4 of the 7 matches I played. But 6 of them, my opponent had Thresh Nasus. Like 1, 2, 3 of them, my opponent had TLC, and in almost all of them, my opponent had Zoe decks. No, I actually played against a couple aggro lineups, so there were like 2 Zoe lists. One of my opponents was on like deep as Draven, Leona, Asol. They had a spicy lineup, and then I played against Spiders 3 different times too. Discard aggro twice. What was your picture of the meta? Did you feel like we read the meta pretty well, Nico? Did you feel
it felt really hard not to read? To be honest, I felt like I dodged TLC a lot, which was funny. I only played against TLC twice, I think, actually, which is kind of crazy. I don't really. I might have played against it a 3rd time. I think it was 3, but still, that's very low. I saw Thresh Nasus 6 times, and I saw a lot more discard aggro than I thought I should have, which is evidenced by the fact that I beat it every time. This might have been like literally the worst tournament to bring discard aggro to, unfortunately, even though I love that deck.
Yeah, absolutely. And I understand its place in lineups, and some people are comfortable with, so I think it's defensible. But yeah, it's just not. It's a pretty hostile meta for it.
I think these numbers are just slightly obscuring of the real fact of why they're so popular. Like, why is Threshnasus so popular? Why is TLC so popular? And I don't think it's because they are truly that much better than the next decks. Like, they are clearly the tier 1 options, but I don't think they're that much better than everything else. It's simply that they together make one of the most cohesive and hard to target combos of 2 decks we have ever seen in any tournament meta.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's why last week I said this is going to be the least diverse tournament meta we've ever seen.
Because they just work. It just works so.
They
well
work
together.
too well together. They both do the exact same. They both have a very bulletproof plan.
Synced matchup table. They're hard to target.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like they have such incredible inevitability. Like they're just both very, very, very solid decks, and they're tier 0 basically. And together they cover for each other so well.
It really was so hard to imagine playing aggro into these decks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Like, it sounds like 2 discard aggro players basically made it. And I'd be interested to see what the like discard aggro lineups were that like got discard aggro into this top 32. But I wouldn't want to be the guy with discard aggro looking at this field in the top 32, right?
Yeah, I don't think there was any spiders.
You're going to have to play against 29 copies of Threshnasus and then like another 27 copies of TLC. Like,
yeah,
you're just not going to you're just going to have every round's going to be hard, right?
There wasn't a single copy of Elise, which means
I know
no decks with spiders in it made it.
Yikes.
One player, he's a streamer, lover of pies, probably the best spiders player that I know at least, and I know he went 6-3, and he had the deck in his lineup. So if he's not making it, I don't know who would.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so it's just really hard. There's I don't know how you're supposed to attack these decks. We talked about it on the podcast, and it sounds like some people felt like they'd like farmed Threshnasus all day. Like I saw there was like a Lee Karma deck, I think.
Apparently good, yeah.
And I saw a lineup that was like just mono spice. There was like Lee Karma and a Nivea, I think.
Okay.
Then one other thing, like Tom Raka, I think.
Yeah.
Like, and they were just
Tom
like
Raka
farmed
does-
Threshnasus all day, easy.
Okay, I don't know. So this Lee Karma thing, I don't know what. Maybe I just had a bizarre experience, but I did several scrims with Dragon in our Discord.
With this Lee Karma deck.
He was playing the deck.
Yeah.
And I really hope I'm not just completely misremembering, but I remember, like, I'm pretty sure he was playing Lee Karma. He might have had, like, a copy of Zoe or not Zoe. That's not how that works.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
And he could-
Never mind. Anyway, he was playing Lee Karma. I'm, like, 99.9% sure.
Yeah.
And he didn't win a game, I don't think.
I lost to it in the tournament. I lost Zoe Lee into that. Karma creating spells and just like... We just like...
Well, but did you lose on Threshnasus into that?
No, I lost on Zoe Lee into that.
Yeah, okay. Because we played a bunch. I played a bunch of Threshnasus.
Oh, I see.
Because people were talking about trying to bust the best deck, and I don't know. I didn't feel like it worked. It never felt like anything, because Karma doesn't do anything.
I mean, we haven't seen
Yeah, that's the problem with that.
who's won this tournament yet, right? Like, given the top cut, right? Like, I think it's pretty clear that the field failed at beating Threshnasus.
Yes.
And TLC, right? Like, looking at these results,
Yeah, absolutely.
like the general Legends of Runeterra player base did not successfully target these decks. They dominated.
So-
but it might not win the tournament. There might be 1 or 2 players who did bring a lineup that
cracked the
successfully figured it out.
Yeah.
And if they get to show that off, we could have some new like emerging meta staples that are coming out from this tournament, right? They're like, no, look at me absolutely annihilate Threshnasus with this Karma Lee deck or whatever, and then it'll click and we'll have a new deck. But I'm curious to see if those like brew lineups can come out over top, or if it's just going to be like an entirely dominant story.
What I will say is that even if say like a theoretical scenario where I'm actually a good brewer, and I came up with a lineup that crushed Threshnasus, like actually like put it in the dirt, I don't think I would have brought it to the seasonal tournament. Like, even if I had a 90% win rate against Threshnasus with my lineup, anytime I saw it, I still don't think I would have brought it to the seasonal tournament because the prevailing knowledge at the time was that like people are gonna bring jank to the seasonal. And guess what? People do bring jank to the seasonal. Like I didn't play against Threshnasus 3 of the matches that I played, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, going into this top 32, however, these are, in each shard going to be the best 32 people in your region. And there's going to be a much higher percentage of Threshnasus. I think that targeting Threshnasus is a much better strategy in these top 32s than trying to bring it into the Swiss rounds of the tournament. So we might see Threshnasus crushing lineups actually be successful, where they probably were not successful.
Now, that's actually really an interesting point because, all right, I guess I feel like I'm drawing this somewhat correlation, right? Because the Swiss rounds, correct me if I'm wrong, but the like first few rounds are seeded, correct? Right, like the first ranked player in each shard plays against like the last player to queue from Gauntlet.
The
right?
first round, I believe. After
the first round?
That, I mean, maybe they continue to be seeded. I don't know about after the first round.
Yeah, I'm not sure about after the first round either, but the first round definitely is, and I think it's really interesting that like it would be. It's a little interesting if you're like a Gauntlet player, right? To like be like, I'm gonna play against a top ladder player on my first round. Of course they're gonna bring Threshnasus. Like I'll bring the anti-Threshnasus lineup. Or like
that would be interesting.
If you're like a top 10 player, you're gonna play against somebody who just barely got there. Like, are you supposed to weigh the fact that your round one is far more likely to be against jank?
That's actually fascinating. Yeah.
I wonder if you're supposed to theoretically change your lineup to hedge for your first round because you have a general idea of
what kind of things will be going on.
What like are you going to be playing against a top ranked Masters player, or are you going to be playing against somebody who got in the Gauntlet, or are you in the middle and you're going to be playing against a mid ranked Masters player? Like it feels like you maybe could gain some points there by gaming that.
There's a lot of really fun game theory implications there. And
absolutely. Yeah,
and I think it was still.
I'll have to break that one down next time. Yeah,
I cannot wait to see where the like strats end up like a year from now. How people are gaming these systems. Right? Like, I cannot wait to see where the like in a year from now we're going to be like, yeah, you got to be like top 30 if you really want to make 7-2 or like are you going to have to be like like you could just bring any 3 decks and you'll play against jank or whatever, and that's just the tech. Like, I'm curious to see what strategies develop because it feels like everybody still has different strategies and nobody's really figured out a definitive one that works best yet.
Yeah. And we're still so early that we don't know. Like, it is totally possible that someone got top 4 in the first seasonal and then is never going to top 32 a seasonal again.
Yeah.
There are people that are likely to have that, right? There are people who are going to be blips on the radar, and then there are going to be people that are mainstays of the competitive scene, and a lot of people, posting that they top 32 their second seasonal in a row, and that's awesome, right? And those people are setting themselves up to become some of the best players in the world, and that kind of defines things even more, right?
Yeah, and
it's going to continue growing, and I'm very excited to continue to be a part of it.
With Worlds coming in, like, I saw a tweet that I agreed with that was like heads up, Legends of Runeterra players. I don't remember who tweeted this, but maybe it was like Majin Bay or something like that. Mogwai. Yeah, he was like, we've been playing on easy mode now. Like now that we have Worlds, there's a real prize pool. Like we're gonna start getting our asses kicked by all these Hearthstone pros or Magic pros or whatever that are gonna come to our game and start collecting on people. Like Josh Utter Layton went 8-1. Yeah. Again, Raptor from Magic, Magic Hall of Famer. He went 8-1 with our same lineup that you guys played,
which makes me feel even better about it.
Yeah, but like he's been is this his third seasonal in a row? Like he's
second.
Just been solidly crushing.
Yeah,
it's either his second or third, right?
Apparently, he made it in off tiebreakers last season. Just saying that.
Wait, there were tiebreakers last season? Wasn't it 5-0? 5-0s?
Yes, but someone dropped and he got in.
As a 4-1?
Yes, I'm not exactly sure.
As a 4-1 with the highest 4-1. Insane.
Wow.
Yes.
What a psycho.
Wild.
That man's a monster. So, right, like I said, I mean, Nico alluded to it earlier, but like, I think that this is going to be a really, really hard season, and I'm so excited to try and
test the metal,
really brawl it out, because I haven't really actively tried to really hit a high rank in a card game since Hearthstone. I mean, I really grinded in Hearthstone. I played some Magic Arena. I think I hit like top 10 on Magic Arena at one point, but like that was really early Magic Arena, so it It was
Yeah,
the only
once again,
ladder
not
was
the same.
best of one. Like, it didn't really feel the same. And I'm really excited to I think there's going to be world-class players at the top of the NA ladder. NA feels like the most competitive region for Legends of Runeterra, which is also really exciting, right? Like, it's so cool to be to feel like if you're the best player in NA, you're probably the best player in the world, right? Like, we have the most opportunity to make that name for ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so excited to brawl at the top.
You guys got to stop hyping me up because now I'm just sitting here like, God damn it, do I have to quit my job?
Yeah, see, that's what I've been thinking to
There's
myself.
so much money.
Like, ever since the seasonal was just really having the stakes are real now, and I very much care about doing well. I felt happy about how I prepped for the seasonal, not as happy about how much I laddered to get there. It was 3 days before when I decided I had to stop. Like, maybe I could have climbed such that 7-2 was achievable. It's possible if I did really well, but I would like to put myself in that position much earlier this season.
Oh, yeah.
And for me personally, there's no time like now. Like, this is the time that I have that I can dedicate time to Legends of Runeterra, and so I'm gonna do it, continue to do it.
Stakes
I'm
are
very
real
excited
right
to
now.
see what happens.
Yeah, like for everyone out there listening, like if you want to make a name for yourself in the community, like it's now.
Now's the time.
It's
Yeah.
now. It's going to be this season. Like, this last season is going to have a lot of hype around it. This particular seasonal tournament because Worlds just got announced, but really, I think that the next season is going to have a lot of eyes on it. Basically, there's going to be a lot of money getting put into the scene and everything. I don't know. I'm just sitting here gushing. I'm very excited. We should probably move on to
Spoilers?
spoilers. Yeah.
Yeah, it's enough about the seasonal tournament.
Yeah, we got some. Well, our first new champion, right?
Yeah, so we actually delayed
hype.
recording by a day so that we could see the new champion, who turned out to be Zillion. Very cool. He is a Shuriman champion, as we expected. He just got released today, the day of the recording. He is a 2-mana 1/4. He has play, create 4 time bombs in your deck, then predict, and then level up. I've seen you destroy 2 allied time bombs. And then time bombs are 2-mana landmarks that have countdown 1, and they say when I'm summoned, draw 1 and advance other allied time bombs 1 round. So 2 mana, draw 1, and then they say countdown 1, deal 1 to enemies and the enemy nexus. So they're going to ping your opponent's board. It's like a TF red card trigger on the next turn after you play it. And then if you play a second one after the first, it counts down the first one.
It immediately does it.
That text was a little weird to me because they're only countdown 1, but
Yeah, it feels like it really doesn't make much sense because why does it need to immediately trigger it if they both just trigger on the start of the next turn? Isn't that basically the same thing?
yeah.
I'm not even sure that
feel
text
like
is good.
The goal is so that you can't make your own bladed ravine,
Yeah,
right? Like you can only do one delayed damage. If that makes sense.
I think that's probably why as well. But I wonder if it was intended that text is downside. I wonder if that's upside or downside text because it feels like it might be hidden downside.
Yeah, totally. So then the Zillion that levels up, he levels up once you've seen 2 allied time bombs go off, be destroyed. He says, round start, create a fleeting copy of each non-fleeting card I saw you play last round. So he goes back in time and sees the card you played last round and puts them all in your hand, which is going to lead to your hand being full a lot. And then create 4 time bombs in your deck, then predict, and he becomes a 2/5.
So this card, I think this card's really sweet. Real quick, I saw.
The art is certainly sweet.
I didn't fact check this math, but I saw somebody say that you're about 40%, a little under 40% to see a time bomb with Zillion the first time you play him.
Okay.
Or maybe, sorry, I think it was 30.
Yeah, 30%.
I think it was 30%. Yeah, a little under 30% to hit the first time you play him.
That person was me.
Ah, well, that makes sense. Great. Well, I didn't fact check you, so I believe you. So, I mean, is this card good? I think it could be.
Yeah, I'm not sure what kind of Shurima deck I want to play this card in.
I think this card's good.
Okay.
I think so too. You.
We should 1 second. I should add the champ spell real quick, just so we have the full picture.
Oh,
of
sure.
the champion
Yeah,
real
yeah.
quick. That's my bad. It is Chrono Shift, his ultimate from League of Legends.
Classic.
It's a 7-mana burst spell that says, give an allied champion. The next time I would die this round, fully heal me and grant me +3/+3 instead. Just run that one back. You ready for Zillion Fiora?
Oh, yeah.
Unkillable.
Okay, so anyway, Zillion in general, like, so 2-mana 1/4 predict. That's already not that bad, right?
That's already a fine card. That's
Aspiring Chronomancer has a better body.
Yeah,
It doesn't
definitely.
take a champ slot.
So,
But
like,
the time bombs are upside probably. So definitely upside. I think the time bomb
The
card
flip-
is very good.
the flip is really good, too, I think.
And yeah, and the flip is quite good.
yes, the flip is very, very.
It's, like, hilariously good, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I would feel like an evil genius sitting there, like, could you imagine, like, it doesn't even matter what cards you have. Could you imagine just, like, sitting there going off with Pool Sharks and Zillions? Like,
Yeah.
Or, like, Zap Sprayfins and Zillions, or, like,
Burblefish.
Burblefish and Zillions. It doesn't
I mean,
even matter. You don't
yeah.
even have to abuse it. It could just be fair and it'll be broken.
Like
Yeah,
Mystic Shots.
because suddenly every single card in your deck, you have 2 of them.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Every time you play a card, you're gonna get it back. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah. It's absolutely going
I-
into some nonsense here.
I have a sneaking suspicion that this card is kind of busty. Like,
Kind of busty.
I
Let's
think
go.
it
Seen that
might
hair?
go
That hair is big
beyond
busty.
Just good.
A 2-mana 1/4 is
The-
also so hard to kill.
Yes, that is a huge reason why. Like, I think given what Time Bomb does, it seems like he slots very perfectly into a mid-range to control deck. And having champions, we've already seen that champions like Elise that cost 2 mana, and you can drop early to protect yourself with, play very well in those kind of decks. And I think Zillion slots perfectly into that kind of a deck. Plus, he's giving you insane late game value, which Elise does not do. Like, and you can play Zillion, your first copy is Zillion, right? And then wait until they have like a board, and then, play your time bombs or whatever. And you don't even have to be afraid of your Zillion dying, because then you're just waiting to draw another Zillion, then you play him, then you play your time bombs.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. That was what I was saying. Is I think the first one is pretty unlikely to flip, but
Yeah.
the second one, when you have 8 time bombs in your deck,
Definitely going to flip.
other predict triggers,
You've drawn some cards.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
So Nico really hit on all the points I wanted to touch on with this card. It's like, he's going to be good in a mid-range shell. You even talked about Elise, which I'm very happy about, because I think that this card is most likely to find a home in like a Go Hard shell. Like, when I look at this card, this sounds like a dream Go Hard package. We're going to
Yes.
play.
We want
We're
to
gonna
dilute our
play-
deck more.
Yeah, because we're going to predict a bunch.
Oh, I see.
So we're going to predict to be able to find our Go Hards, right? Like, we're going to have to give up. I guess we're going to have to give up Zap Sprayfin, unfortunately, because we'd have to play
and
Shurima.
Twisted Fate.
And
I'm
Twisted
off
Fate.
this.
So you're gonna have to give up Twisted Fate, but you get Zillion, you get a bunch of time bombs. All the pings are gonna add up together. They're gonna be really good. You get to predict into your Go Hards.
Okay,
You draw
okay.
a bunch of cards. You get to start double casting your Go Hards with flipped Zillions.
Maybe we could wait. Can we put Kindred in this deck? I might be in.
Yeah, that's
No,
that'd be a great second champion.
No,
for
like
this deck.
actually,
God.
like I think that
Maybe
you
worse
don't,
than
you
Nasus.
don't need 6 2-drop things, guys. Champions. That's what I meant. 6 2-drop champions. You don't need 3 Elise and 3 Zillion. I want to play like 3 Zillion, like 2 Kindred and Elise, and see what happens.
Don't hate it. I almost prefer the one Nasus.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
Because it's part of our Ledros Atrocity package to win the game.
Yeah. Interesting.
know?
And Nasus has proven to be powerful. So
Yeah, and in case any of you guys are wondering, when the set drops, I will absolutely be laddering with Thresh Nasus instead. Thank you.
yeah, absolutely.
I want to just put this in a Zoe deck.
Zoe deck.
Yep,
Ooh,
that was the first thing I wanted
that
to do
sounds
with this.
hot. Tell me about this deck.
I don't.
That's it. That's
I
all.
don't,
we got?
I mean,
Fair
I don't
enough.
know.
That
man.
sounds
it has,
hot though.
It has Zoe in it, and then it has this guy.
We
I
get to
think
like
there's-
double cast our super cool star charts. That sounds hype.
I just think that I don't know, 2 really low cost champions that are gonna get out of hand really quickly. Is just
That's fair,
That's it,
honestly. Just
honest.
like overload them with early game threats. Just, like,
it's
see if
mostly
they can answer it
it's
all.
really because Targon just seems really strong with Zillion.
Why is that?
Because a 2-mana 1/4, you're gonna look at it and be like, okay, well, it's a 1/4. He's not gonna do that much in combat, but he blocks okay. And then the moment he gets any amount bigger from anything at all,
Or healed. He just
like
gets
one
so hard to
Zenith
shoot
Blade on this guy.
You want
It's
a
a
Zenith Blade of
huge
Zillion?
Oh my god.
Like, I'm not saying I'm going to put Zenith Blade in the deck necessarily, but my first thought was, when
But
I
what
saw
if you did?
Yeah, what if I did? But my first thought was, how many games I win just putting a Zenith Blade on my Eyes of the Dragon,
Yeah, making him huge. Yeah.
and just make that guy big.
yeah,
And I don't know. This seems like a better candidate for my buff spells.
absolutely.
You know, I don't know. Targon's just a good region. This seems
It
like
is
a good
really
card.
good. Yeah.
Zoe's another good card.
But put all the good cards in a deck and see if it's good.
yeah, exactly.
Are we ready to hear about the other treats that Shreem has gotten so far?
Real quick, the last
Well-
thing I want to touch on is that Chrono Shift is like pretty good.
Cool.
So like that's nice. All right, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, you actually hit exactly what I wanted to say. I just wanted to say that I don't think Chrono Shift is a card you ever want to put in your deck, independent
Agreed.
of Zillion, because there's a lot of really awkward use cases where, like, you know,
You need a champion too. So
yeah,
like,
you
it
need
just
a
is not
champion-
generically very useful.
Exactly. You need a champion
Yes.
on board. You have to hold 7 mana up, which is a lot, even at burst speed. Like, it's awkward. But
And then they hush it.
it being right, and
Ugh.
it being your champ spell though means that you already have a champion on board, and
Always,
guess
yeah.
what?
Which is very nice.
You
yeah.
know, like this starts to look pretty good if you know
you get to
you're
yeah,
close
and then you get to
flipping a
choose
Zillion
if
or
2
whatever.
mana Zillion 2 is better than 7 mana Zillion +3/+3, right? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
And like the +3/+3 is going to be better a lot of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have Scrying Scans, which is a 1 mana burst spell that predicts and gives an enemy -2/-0 this round. Kind of decent cantrip. I'm just going to read through all of them. 2 mana 1/4 Soothsayer. These are all Shurima, by the way. When I'm summoned,
do we-
grant allied champions and landmarks spell shield. Didn't know landmarks could have
Sorry,
spell
not to-
shield. That's fun.
Not
Oh,
to
yeah, what was that,
override
Nico?
my welcome, but do we want to go through them one by one so that we don't have to like read them twice when we
That's fair.
talk about
That's
them?
probably all right. Let's start with
So
quick
Scrying
Scans.
Scans.
Or Scrying Scans.
yeah.
Sorry.
The 1 mana burst spell, predict, give an enemy -2/-0 this round.
This card's like really good, right? I mean, maybe not really good, but like the predict here is real, right?
Unless we see something that says, I don't know. I think this card's bad.
Interesting. I'm pretty high
initially-
on it.
I was initially low on this, like not low. I was like, this card is good, but there's probably going to be better things to do. And then I thought more about it, and I was like, well, okay. I mean, if people are putting a 1 mana landmark that makes it 2/2 2 turns later because it predicts in their deck,
Yeah.
maybe. I actually think this card is much more powerful than we give it credit for. I think the predict keyword is pretty gosh darn good, and now we actually
Yeah.
have a reason to be predicting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Like if this is going to help us like flip our Zillions, like flipping Zillions seems really, really powerful. So like every predict extra gets a little bit better, right? Especially if you're trying to play these mid-range decks. Like, don't underestimate the power of getting to pick which answer you
Card
draw.
selection. Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
You know, especially if you're playing Shurima, which is a region that doesn't really have a lot of access to like strict card draw.
Yeah.
Right. Like you're
Besides,
not going to.
Preservarium being like it.
Yeah, it's like Preservarium. That's basically it. That's basically your only like raw card advantage, right? So like Shurima getting to choose which answers it finds or which threats it finds in any given matchup can be just as good as draw a card a lot of the time, right?
Yep.
Because instead of finding, it could be even better, right? Because like some of the time you aren't even going to see this key card that you need in certain matchups. You know, certain matchups hinge on specific cards. Predict is really good, like Hush against Thresh Nasus type thing, right? Like
Do we know if predict looks at the top 3 cards of your library?
Random
deck?
3.
Random.
Yeah, it's a
3.
random 3.
It's any random 3 in your deck.
And then does it randomize your deck after?
Yes.
Like if you like play an Omen Hawk, do you wreck your Omen Hawk when you predict?
That's
Yes.
a good question. I think yes.
Okay. Because
PSA.
the coding is interesting and weird, and maybe.
Yeah. The reason I'm not wild about this card is because predict. I've just never been wild about predict this whole time, but there hasn't been that much predict. So hopefully it's a critical mass thing.
playing
And if
some
it is,
yeah.
then
Playing-
this card can totally be good.
Playing some Inspiring Chronomancer in like various Lab of Legends like decks left me a little higher on the mechanic, just like putting the card in play and just having nice card selection.
Yeah,
Speaking of,
and
I'm
there's
1 and
still-
3 in the Riven run. By the way, I lost that.
Oh.
I lost playing the Riven 3 times. 3. Those bots are nasty, man.
They get you.
Yeah.
They get you good. Okay, how about what's the next card?
Soothsayer.
Yeah.
2 mana, 1/4. When I'm summoned, grant allied champs and landmarks spell shield.
This card is medium.
People are really high on this
Really?
card.
So the thing that I think that's weird about this card is that it is so like, I don't know. This card is either gonna be just the most irredeemable piece of trash, or it's
Or it's going to be really good.
yeah, it's gonna be insane. And
Yeah, nowhere in between.
I don't think there's really any
Imagine
between
curving
here.
this into Zoe. Zoe
I
into
just-
this. That's a nice
Ooh.
time.
Yeah, I don't. I think
saying.
I'm
It's
leaning.
nice time.
I'm leaning insane. More than garbage because like, spell shield is just so unbelievably powerful on whatever you put it on. Like, it's always okay. The floor of spell shield is like, man, that's annoying. That is the worst spell shield can ever really be in my experience.
Yeah.
And it can be really good. Like, imagine
It's
all
usually
of the
really
games,
good.
Imagine all of the games where your Thresh Nasus opponent was like sitting there with this 8 power Nasus and you're at 7 and you're like, well, I got this flash freeze. I have to play around Atrocity for the rest of the game. And then you're like, oh, well, as soon as Nasus attacks, he gets spell shield and I'm doomed, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's going to be like, I'm just imagining dying to Nasus is getting spell shield and then getting flung at my face over and over again with this card too. Like,
Except the card Nasus naturally does that, so I don't think that we need to play this
yeah,
card.
well, it's not going to be like necessarily Nasus, but like
Yeah, that makes sense.
Something that I'm
Like
excited-
Zeds, big Zeds. maybe
Yeah,
Lees.
like-
yeah.
Lee Sin is probably
This card is
a real
definitely
one.
going in that mono Lee Shurima Lucky Find deck.
Oh, that's a big
Well, that
upgrade
deck's
for this
dead
deck.
because they patched it. But other than that,
What was the thing?
Lucky Find was counting for 2 spells, so Lee basically instantly flipped because it counted for when you cast the Lucky Find and then also the
the thing that found the
keyword
lucky
you
find.
put on it. Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, sorry.
But Payday is still 2 spells. The 2 mana burst spell and then
No.
the Lucky Find is 2 spells, but it's just not also a third one.
I believe it is that Payday is not 2 spells. Because Payday is the one that you actually look at the 3, right?
Payday
Yeah.
Let me
puts
make
2
sure
lucky
I-
finds in hand, right? Is that what Payday?
Payday
does?
puts a Lucky Find in hand, and Lucky Find looks at 3.
I agree.
Yeah.
And then Inner Sanctum
Got it.
puts
Yeah, no,
2
it was
Lucky Finds in
Lucky
your
Find
hand.
was counting for 2. Yes, Lucky Find was counting for 2. My bad.
Got it.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay. I will say that now, like, I didn't. So before these started getting read to me today, right at this moment, I hadn't looked at any of them. That Zoe Zillion deck, man, I like that so much more now with Soothsayer because turn 1
a lot of
Zoe and
protection.
turn 2 Soothsayer. Like, what are you gonna do then?
Yeah, it's not respondable to because it's a unit too. That's
Yeah.
another huge thing about this card. Is
It just
like
happens.
it just happens. It's not like it's not like Moonglow where they can just like Mystic Shot your guy in response.
No.
It just happens.
Yeah.
What
I also would like
yeah,
to
where
put
you
out
at,
that
Nico?
Soothsayer is okay. One, I think this card is very good. I think that 1/4 is a body that gets looked down on because generally you have better things to put in your deck than 1/4s. Like, but Thorny Toad is like a pretty annoying card, and that costs 3. I think 1/4 for 2 mana is actually
Thorny Toad
totally
costs
fine.
2.
Oh yeah, okay, good. Because I was thinking about it, I was like, no, that doesn't sound right.
That card would be
But
bad.
that being said, right? So like a 1/4 is annoying against aggro. So and you're certainly never putting this in your aggro deck. At least I hope not. But man, does this make Mono Shurima a lot better, right?
Oh,
it
yeah.
protects your Sun Disc because this
Oh,
gives it to
interesting.
landmarks and champions, and it also
Oh, that's
protects the
neat.
champions, which you literally need to win the game, right? You
Yeah.
can't win the game if those don't level up, and as soon as you have a spell shield on them, they're much more likely to level up.
Yeah, and this
kinda
all
sick,
this
actually.
Shurima Champ Matters stuff is kind of starting to pile. Like I'm officially pretty scared. Like let's not forget about like Golden Ambassador, right?
Yeah.
The 3/3 that draws a champion and gives
3/2.
it +3/+3 or whatever.
Oh,
Right?
yeah. 2 that gives +2/+2.
+2
Alex
plus the
thinks that card is
3/2 that
significantly
draws
better than
+2
this.
+2. But like like the more it's stacking up, like Now we have our 6/6 Renekton's with Spell Shield.
Yeah.
Dear God.
As someone
how
who
do you beat that?
recently played that in Lab of Legends, can confirm it is good.
Yeah, like
I know
it's
what
starting to
Noble's
get
been
pretty
doing
scary.
recently.
Lot of Lab of Legends. I finished the first level. Nice.
Nice.
People
Riven
have been
was
doing
the hardest.
speed runs of Lab. It's pretty sick.
I speed run. The Talia one was the easiest because my first champion pick was Ezreal, and I got 0 mana exhaustions that drew a card and cast themselves again on the same target, and I had my spell mana refill every time. So it was just 0 mana, 2 pips on Ezreal, or 4 damage to the face if Ezreal was flipped. Draw 2 cards, and I had like 6 of them.
Please tell me that you were recording that, because you might hold the world record right now.
No, I was not. It was
That's so
sad.
sad.
Well, I think a caveat of the Talia speedrun challenge is that you have to make Talia the star, because everyone...
I don't think that's true.
I think that is... I thought that
that's
was...
fair.
I was
That's
under the
fair.
impression that Talia had to be the star of the show.
She
because-
won me the early games.
Well, yeah, because you have literally no other option.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah. Anyway.
It's not Talia's fault all her cards suck.
Yeah, it's not her fault that she's trying to duplicate rock bears.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
you know. It's just a bad... She just got dealt a bad hand, you know?
Yeah.
She's also kind of a bad card.
She's also kind of bad, but not nearly that bad.
No, that's
that she
true.
doesn't deserve her fate.
She could start duplicating time bombs, and maybe I'm interested.
That's
Sounds
7
pretty
mana
hot.
on one turn, though. That's like...
Oh, that's fair.
That's a turn 7, 1 damage to the enemy board. It's the worst Twisted Fate I ever heard.
Yeah,
2.
2 damage, draw 2 cards.
It doubles it up.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But it's only one better than the time bomb is. I wasn't even counting the fact that
It does
I wasn't
instantly
counting the
level
original
your
time bomb
Zillion.
because we had that anyway.
I
Whatever.
see.
Oh, it
All right.
also flips your Zillion. Now that's
Yes.
real.
And it also flips Talia.
Wow. Well,
Usually,
yeah.
'cause
Here we go. Getting
If
there.
you're playing
Well,
some landmarks.
anyway, moving on. The next card is...
That's all there is. We've hit the end.
No, there's more.
There were some that were spoiled
What?
yesterday.
There's
Oh, you're
more.
talking about the ones that were yesterday. Yeah,
haven't-
yeah,
'cause we
that's
haven't,
right.
you know,
I forgot,
recorded.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's plenty
So
more.
sorry, getting ahead of
Lots to
myself.
talk about.
So 8 mana, the clock hand. 8 mana, 4/7. When I'm summoned, create 2 instant sentries in hand. And these are a set of 3 different cards.
They aren't.
What?
It's weirdly coded. So it's a 0 mana focus spell that says summon a random landmark with countdown or advance a landmark 4 rounds. And then there are 2 other ones that are like the
2
when you
options?
play it, there are the 2 options come up, and like for some reason they spoiled those cards too.
Got it.
It took me a while to figure it out. Looking at
That
them.
makes way more sense because I was just now reading that and I was like, that's really weird that one of these is both of them.
Yeah. That's how I
So
understand
okay,
it.
instant sentry just is a 0 mana focus card that you can either pick the card that advances a landmark 4 rounds, or you can pick the card that summons a random landmark with countdown.
Cool.
And those are your 2 options. And it creates
2 of
2 of them in hand.
It costs 8 mana and a 4/7. I'm off this one.
It's
This one
probably
is-
bad.
Super hard to evaluate, I think.
Yeah,
Because this
like
could be
it's
absolutely busted in half.
exactly.
It could
yeah,
be.
What?
Okay, so advance a landmark 4
I
rounds.
guess it's 0 mana, summon a random landmark.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Countdown.
there's a lot of there's a decent amount of RNG there. I don't know how many landmarks have countdown, but it's a decent amount. It's like
Okay.
4 or 5,
So how many landmarks have countdown greater than 4?
other than Buried Sun Disk. I don't know.
0, I believe. other
It's
than Buried
like
Sun Disk.
Frozen Thrall.
And Frozen Thrall.
Yeah.
Oh
Frozen
god,
Thrall
you can
one.
get
What are we?
buried Sundeck.
What are we
Oh,
reducing by
God.
4?
Yeah.
That we even care about? Like,
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying the card's probably bad. But like, it's
Yeah.
one of these things where
if you show me a real good landmark that I want to reduce by 4 counters, then I might be interested. But
8
It's-
mana, though.
Spoilers, it's Frozen Thrall. It's Frozen Thrall. That's
yeah,
the one.
see, and if the answer is it's Frozen Thrall, I'm off it. No thanks.
yeah, and that's totally fair.
Yeah.
Also, is this every like? Are we getting more later?
There are cards that have not been spoiled yet.
Okay, perfect.
There,
So
there is Irelia still. And there is another champion
cool.
probably.
So we don't know yet for
Malphite.
sure, but for now, this card doesn't look great.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Imagined possibilities.
Yeah, this is another one that's weirdly coded. but
Yeah,
there's-
so create a random landmark with countdown in hand, or advance your landmarks 1 round, 1 mana focus, and then the next 2 copies are just the 2 options.
Yeah.
Printed individually. So that's all it does. Advance your landmarks 1 round. This is just a card you have to put in your deck.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, no, this is that is really bad.
Yeah.
It could sometimes lead to cool, like, focus speed, make some units / like time bomb them, but I don't really think that's true.
Man, those are a lot of janksy hoops.
Yeah, this is way too cute.
Yeah, this is really, and you know what? Maybe it could be. No, it's not. Next card, 2 mana, focus, time in a bottle, predict and advance an allied landmark 2 rounds. That's so much better.
Yeah. Now that one actually is defensible
Because it has predict on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we're doing the thing with Zillion, like it's it's the name of Zillion's passive. It's obviously a Zillion card, right? Like this card
Yes, absolutely.
looks defensible to put in your Zillion deck. To be honest,
Oh, yeah.
like I mean, we still might need something a little bit better to be reducing the countdown on, but
At
this one's
what
close.
point do these rock bears start to seem playable?
That's a good question.
Because I feel
what is
like
the
they're
exact
approaching
text
playability.
It's a
on Rock Bear?
2 mana, countdown 3 or 4. I think it's 4.
It's 3. Countdown 3.
Oh, 2 mana, countdown 3, make a 4. 5/4.
Yeah.
And
So
then
on
the
turn
other one
3
is
I could theoretically play Time in a Bottle and make a 5/4.
there's also Salt Spire, which is Salt Spire. Countdown 2, summon a grumpy rock bear. Then if you summoned 4+ landmarks this game, grant the strongest ally +2/+2.
So that was 4 mana.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
that,
that
one
one
is
probably-
worse.
That one is like quite a bit worse, but I mean, maybe if we're doing all this landmark thing, it gets to be respectable. Probably not still though. Like, let's be honest.
I'm gonna go with no because I've played in the games where my opponent has popped 4 of those on one turn, on like turn 5, and swung with all of them, and I was just like, I'll chump 2, take 10, and then beat you.
Cast Avalanche, yeah,
or
we'll be
like,
fine.
or you
Yeah.
know, good cards that aren't like other things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, it's just so
Hopefully these games were an expedition.
yeah, they were.
Where Screeching Dragon reigns supreme.
It's true.
Card looks good into Screeching Dragon. It's a 5/4. 2 mana.
You say that, but Screeching Dragon never dies.
That's reasonable as well.
Yeah, and so I don't see that being good anytime soon. Even with this next card, Preservationist, 5 mana, 4/4, play advance an allied landmark 3 rounds.
I'm just not putting this card in any deck.
Drakthorn Inquisitor is a much better way to do this for Frozen Thralls.
Yep.
And that is the card that I would want to do. Like,
And I've gone on record saying that I really am not a fan of that card. So
yeah, and how many times you have to advance 3 your Buried Sun Disc before you get to 25? It's a lot.
See, here's the problem with Sundisk is that okay, so realistically we're gonna play 5 rounds. Obviously, we're gonna play 5 rounds before any of our champs level up. So we're gonna get it down to 20, and then
That only happens on round 6.
right, yeah. But like, you know, how frequently are you going to be able to level up the Sundisk without leveling up 2 champions? Like, it's basically never. Like, it's basically irrelevant past one.
Whoa, wait. But the thing is, these cards suddenly make it viable to only need 1.
See, that's the thing about these
Yes.
cards is that good enough?
You
Basically,
think
is what
you
I'm
can
getting
count
at.
to
Like
10 by
before
getting
this-
3 pips for 5 mana, 5 unit mana?
Yeah,
I
like-
think that you're crazy.
I mean,
What
Well,
are
hold
what are
on.
the cards you're
Hold
playing?
on.
So we're gonna play like Time in a Bottle.
there's a critical
right?
there's getting to be a critical mass of random janky count down your thing cards.
Yeah, but it's just like if you
I'm not gonna play the
Spend
5
the
mana
mana to play
4/4.
I mean, you will if that's your plan.
Yeah.
Okay,
so,
so-
there's
so-
also a 2 mana 2/2 that countdowns 2 one of your landmarks, Clockwork Curator, which is just relevant to the discussion.
Yeah. What do you think, Nico?
There's also a 3 mana 3/4 that advances your Buried Sun Disc 3 rounds. There's also the Clock Hand, which personally I think you dismissed a little bit too early, which is basically like flipping a champion. And you also have to think about the fact that once you flip the Sun Disc, it's not hard to actually win the game. Like,
It's true. You're right. I got my booty walloped by Sundisk on ladder.
Yeah.
Like a couple of days ago. I queued into it 3 times in a row and lost to it 3 times in a row. It was
Wait,
brutal.
what?
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah, I was playing TLC and I just got annihilated
Oh, that makes sense.
all 3 times. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
That does make sense.
Yeah.
Interesting. Secret meta crusher.
That deck does things and your deck doesn't.
I've been told that Sundisk has a positive TLC matchup. So if Sundisk already has a positive TLC matchup, then
Yeah, maybe we're getting there.
like, there's a real thing here. Maybe.
So the thing that I want to say
Possible.
is that we don't have mana on turn 1 because we're playing the Sundisk.
Yeah.
Cool. We need to level up one of our champions, which all require investment besides just playing the champion. Like, you need to do other things besides
Azir is
cast
pretty
these.
free.
Not if you're trying to spend your mana playing cards that count down your thing.
All right, that's fair.
Yes, if your turn 1 is that, your turn 2 is the 2/2, your turn 3 is Azir and you attack. That's like 3 summons. You're telling me you're going to get 7 more unit summons if you're spending the rest of your mana on like 2 mana countdown 2 predict and like a 5 mana 4/4 countdown 3? Like, you're just not going to level your champions that fast.
Oh, I was thinking we're playing that god awful Ascended's Rise card.
No, God, no.
7 mana slow, level your Ascendeds to level 2.
I
did
a
almost
good
get
point.
beat
That
by
is a
that
reasonable
once,
point.
but
That card, I actually, I think that card is awful, but the more I see it, the more I see these Sundisk decks, that's hard to say, the more I think that it's the only way that they can win, because they do need to level both their champions to win. At least they did. Now we might actually be able to cut that Empire's Ascended card and just try and level one of our champions and play some things that are going to remove counters, and that might get there.
so like,
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know.
thinking about it, like mathing it out, right? This is like very basic math. I guess at this point. So, obviously 5 turns and you're at 20 counters, and then
-2.
Which
for
I
the
guess
two
it's-
drop.
On turn 5, you're at 21 counters.
yes, that's what I was about to say. It
wanted to
actually
be
is towards 6. So then on turn 7, you will need to have played 3 things that reduced it by 3. So most likely that's not going to happen, given Clockwork, the fact that Clockwork Curator only reduces it by 2. So then, say by turn 8, if we're trying to target turn 8 as the time that we're flipping our Sundisk, by turn 8 we need to have leveled a champion and played 3 effects that reduced our Sundisk. I don't think that's that absurd, because that gives us another 3 turns to be doing things that are not. Well, 2 turns
Yeah, turn
realistically,
eight's,
because in your turn 1
That's
you're playing
fair,
something.
but the champion. Let's not forget that the champions that we have to level up are Nasus, Renekton, and
Azir.
Like, it is when an Ascended champion levels up. Like,
Yeah.
you can't level up Talia
Yeah.
and
Right.
and do the thing. Okay, so we need to be slaying 8 units and striking with a Nasus to do this naturally. We need to be striking 3 times with Renekton, or twice if he's challenging things, and playing 10 units with Azir. Like, it's not free, so we probably have to play this Ascended's Rise card. Like, so maybe this is good, but I don't.
So
I don't know if
in
it's
my-
good.
in my
I'm just putting
opinion-
it out there. Like, I think this deck certainly might have legs next season, and don't be surprised if it.
You can
might
do it
be
turn 6,
good.
but that is just even without any things. You can just play this on turn 1, bank mana on turn 2, Azir on turn
Yeah.
3, Renekton on turn 4, flip them both, and then it's at like 1, I think.
That sounds pretty hot.
I think the version of this deck if this deck is good, it's gonna not run Nasus or run one Nasus.
Yeah, usually want one Nasus
'Cause, like,
them all of you.
Yeah,
Draws you
it
all
draws
of
all of them, but like
them. Nasus is the one that I don't actually know what his 3rd level does.
He's just
he's
huge,
just
right?
massive, and he gives -2, -0,
minus
to all your
3,
enemies?
minus 0.
-3.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbeatable as per usual.
Yeah, I mean they're all pretty unbeatable. Azir's is the worst, isn't it?
I don't know.
Oh
Those
my god,
cards are
that's so good against
busted.
TLC. They obliterate your deck, and then you're like, boom,
Yeah, that's
sun
how
deck,
I lost
baby.
one of the games. Is
That's so
I
sick.
obliterated their deck and then they cast Empire's Ascended and then put a new deck in.
Yeah,
It was
that's
pretty
good.
hot,
and
yeah.
it was all gas.
Yeah, and then like the cards that they draw are like 2 mana burst. Like
Yeah, they're broken.
create
The
a
cards that you
copy
draw
of
are
any
broken.
ally. Like draw 2 cards, except it's ephemeral. Like the cards are nonsense. Like
Yeah, absolutely.
As they should be, but like
they should be nonsense. I agree, but I think that the Azir one might be the worst one. I might agree. Like,
'Cause, like,
Renekton and Nasus just kill you.
Yeah, instantly. Like, it's not even like you can't. And there's not
But
like
if you can deal with them, then they don't have a lasting effect.
I mean, Nasus
so.
does have spell shield.
yeah.
Yeah, I bet maybe Renekton's the worst one because Renekton dies to Vengeance.
Yeah, Renekton does die to Vengeance, but he also triggers on block.
Wait, really?
Yeah, he triggers on
So
block.
dumb.
Yeah, if he
He
blocks
threes your whole board whenever he blocks.
Yeah.
That's absurd.
and your Nexus.
Yeah, you're never beating him in a fair way. All right, is it time to move on to the last?
Yeah. Do we have any other couple
Yeah,
cards? We
there's
got to go through them pretty quick here.
very cute 1-mana Targon guy
we
that says,
gotta
when
talk
I've
about
summoned
our
a landmark, give me +2/+2. I think this card is pretty real.
His name is Chip,
His name
Chip.
is Chip. That is the most important
and
part.
everyone loves Chip.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember
All-
the break the internet image that circulated a good few years ago? I've been thinking about editing Chip into that image because that's about what's happened to the Legends of Runeterra.
You really need to
subreddit.
do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
We are all about our hot chip. Chip.
Eat hot chip,
Chip.
and lie.
All we do,
I'm not
all
sure
we
this
do
card
is
is
eat
actually
hot
good.
chip and lie.
I'm gonna be honest.
Or
I'm not
play
sure
hot
this card
chip
is
and beat for
actually
3.
good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You think this card's actually good? You said?
No, I do not think this card is
Noble
actually
said
good.
No, I don't think
Okay.
it's good.
The
either,
1-mana 3/3,
unfortunately.
man.
It's not. I
You
mean,
play this into Rockhopper and you attack for 6, or you
In
could just play Legion Rearguard.
Targon, though.
or you can just play Bark
Yeah,
Beast.
the real problem is that you have to
Yeah.
put Targon in your
It's-
Shrema deck, and then you don't have Frozen Thralls or.
This just isn't
Other
Targon's
stuff.
plan, unfortunately.
Well, this Zillion Zoe deck that we just talked about. cracks
oh, it's
neck.
chipping.
Chip it up.
And the last card is Blade. 1 mana for a 1/1. Obliterate me when I leave combat. This is Aurelia's.
This
thing.
is something that Irelia does. This
Yeah.
was released so that we know that
Aurelia's on her way.
yeah. It's really interesting to me that Aurelia's blades are units.
Weird. Yeah, I thought that was weird too. It seems kind of cool to me though.
Yeah,
it's giving me
sweet.
it giving me kind of Sand Soldiery vibes. Maybe like Irelia Azir will end up being really cool because like Azir's gonna pump all the blades or whatever.
It feels like Aurelia's gonna.
Oh, wow.
Strike.
That's a great point.
Like when she's gonna have quick attack, and she's gonna say, when I strike a unit, all of my blades also strike it.
Oh, that would be hot.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like, something to that effect. Like we're gonna have her either buffing these things or sending them at what she hits,
Or something like that.
Something
Hugh,
to
this
that.
is big brain shit. I like where
I
your
just-
head's at.
Yeah, it's really cool. I just want to note that just this instant, I got a notification from someone in our Discord that said, really like the idea of Zillion with Go Hard. Seems sweet. Just
Yes.
same wavelength.
Who
love
was
it.
that? Who was
Twilight.
that? Twilight. You're my boy, Twilight.
Yeah.
All right, and that's the last spoiler we have.
So cool. I'm cautiously optimistic. These cards seem cool. Zillion seems nice. I'm be happy predicting more. I love card selection mechanics.
Yeah, that's a big fact thing about what I'm really sad predict is bad because I love I love card selection.
Yeah, can we just get Ponder, please? Just 1 mana
Yeah.
burst, predict, draw a card, please? That would be.
I'd play predict if I could do that.
Yeah,
I'm amazed there isn't a card yet that says
draw the cards you predict.
exactly. Like maybe I feel like that's what Echo's gonna do. Like
Maybe.
he's an assassin with quick attack because he's
That's
an
how he
assassin.
be.
Yeah, exactly.
He's
That's
a
how-
5/2. He costs 3 mana.
Yeah, but then he also says predict, and his flip side says when you predict, instead draw the card the first time you predict every time.
How do you capture the core gameplay element of Echo proto belting at you and one shotting you in a Legends of Runeterra card?
He has quick attack. What do you?
It's a 2-card combo, actually. It's called Atrocity.
That makes sense.
Yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say I think that's the end of the spoilers. Do you guys have anything else you want to add, or are you ready to move on to our listener questions for the week?
I'm excited for Irelia and maybe Malphite.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
I think Malphite is Targon, based on Chip, would make a little sense.
Chip.
Which is weird because Malphite is lore-wise from Ixtal, which means that Ixtal might not be the 10th region if they're putting one of their champions in Targon.
Well, the Void shouldn't be the 10th region, right? Because they announced that the Void was coming and attacking Runeterra.
Yeah,
or something,
so I doubt
would-
that it's the 10th region. I would not be surprised if the 10th region, and I saw this idea somewhere else, it was Reddit or Twitter or somewhere, that the 10th region is could be an Outlanders thing that encompasses the Void, some people from Ixtal. There's not that many of them. There's like 4 champions from Ixtal after Malphite or something. And then like other random places around Ruterra, like
that aren't big enough to have a whole
the Darkin,
region.
like Aatrox, and what's the really annoying jungler? Kane.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And like that kind of stuff.
Kane's card would be really cool, I bet.
Yeah. Could be what we end up seeing.
Yeah, I agree. All right. I think we should get into our listener questions. So let's see. We have our question of the week. I think Hugh's going to take it away because my phone's currently in use being a voice application for Nico. Oh, never mind. I've been given a phone. All right.
Oh, I was just gonna double check.
Whatever. I'm stealing your phone now.
He has my phone now, so he's just.
All right. Our question of the week comes from Wick in our Discord. They ask, "What could Riot do to increase the viability of proactive strategies?"
This is a really interesting question because it has the assumption that they're not currently viable. How do we all feel about that assumption?
So, the hardest part of answering this question for me, and I think in general, I think we can agree that is what do they mean by proactive exactly? Where's the line? Like, because I think their definition of proactive is definitely not mine, and I don't know that it's your guys' either. Like, how proactive is proactive to you? I don't.
Like, it feels kind of like maybe they mean aggro.
Yeah, it feels kind of like maybe they mean aggro. Which, if they do mean aggro, I agree with them. Like, I think that it's kind of hard to play aggro in tournament lineups.
Yeah,
I don't know. I know Nico's talked about this a little bit before as well, and I'll probably let him take that main point because I think he understands it better than me. But like, I think it is hard to play aggro in tournaments a lot, and if he just means like decks with a
if your deck is playing Withering Wail, it's not a proactive deck. That's the start.
Like,
so like, if I might jump in, I would consider Ez Draven, TLC, and Lee Karma as all not proactive decks.
Why is Draven? The other two I agree with.
Because the only cards they're playing are units and ways to deal with their opponent's creatures. I just think their game plan revolves around stopping what their opponent's doing before they win the game, as opposed to making their opponent answer what they're doing.
Okay.
They just do a lot of like passing with 3 removal spells in hand.
That actually makes sense.
Yeah.
I was prepared to say, well, you're playing like one of the best 3-drops in the game and attacking with it. It's not that non-proactive. But no, I see your point, and I actually kind of agree with you.
He says it in the line. He got axes. He needs victims. Like, your opponent is the victim. So if they're not doing anything, he can't do anything. He needs the victim.
Noah's got a point.
Yeah. Okay. I think that so. If they mean aggro, it is a rough time to be playing aggro decks in general, whether it be on the ladder or in tournaments.
Which is crazy because 3 weeks ago we were like, spiders, spooky.
Yeah, but then everyone figured
it
out
was spooky.
It was.
Yeah. Not as spooky as Karma though.
Nothing's as spooky as Karma,
except Threshnasis.
Have you seen that eyeliner? Continue, Nico.
I'm feeling a little like, okay, so basically aggro and proactiveness is generally like, they all kind of have the same plan, right? I'm going to hit the board and I'm going to hit you. And it used to be that pirate aggro didn't play, quite the same as the regular ones because they had so much burn. And that was reflected in the fact that if you're looking back to the old, what was the deck? It was puts gigantic creatures on the board instead of the new TLC strategy. Yeah.
Feel the rush, perhaps?
Feel the rush. Mm-hmm. So Pirates actually had a favorable matchup against Feel the Rush because, basically they had so much burn. But then with the inclusion of Blighted Ravine, I feel like more and more the control decks have the tools to basically just completely blank what aggro can do. And more we see these strategies. People ask, why are we seeing these strategies that are so uninteractive? Like Zoe Lee, has been in the game for a long time, but that is a sort of uninteractive strategy, and it wins the game in one turn. TLC, it puts something that obliterates your deck. That's very uninteractive. And these are not like these are quote unquote reactive strategies. I would call Zoe Lee reactive because of how long it takes to kill you, and it kills you in one turn after controlling, basically not controlling the board, but controlling the game state for so long.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like
aggro, it all plays the same. It all plays. I mean, you're putting and that's not to like shit on aggro. I really like aggro, but to beat
there's
aggro
only really
in a
one
tournament-
aggro plan, and it's aggro.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To beat
Go
aggro
hard,
in a
so-
tournament, you just put a bunch of cards that are good against aggro in your deck, and you do that in all 3 decks. But you can't do that against mid-range, quote unquote.
Yeah. I mean, and you kind of can with picking specific decks, but it's definitely a little harder. And I think that like Go Hard, I would consider reactive, and TF Fizz, I would consider proactive, obviously. And like that's another example of like kind of a dichotomy there, where like Go Hard will kill you. Like if you don't do anything, like they'll just like put like 5 2/2s in play and like beat you to death with them. But like they're fundamentally about grinding out an advantage, reacting to what your opponent's doing, not about just getting you dead.
Yeah.
So then what is the answer to the question? What do you have to do to make proactive strategies better?
I think part of the reason we've seen a bit of a decline in aggro is because before it was the case that these sweepers, like Avalanche and Ruination's not really an anti-aggro card, but things that destroy a lot of creatures all at once, a lot of them were slow. Withering Wail is an exception, but it only deals 1 damage to everything. Now we have Ice Shard and we have Blighted Ravine. These are cards that can now...
They're better against open attacks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We are seeing more cards that can blank open attacks more easily and more effectively. And so we need... Creatures will always... Well, I shouldn't say always. It might change. But for the foreseeable future, are always played at slow speed in the game. There's no such thing as...
Jarvan. No, just kidding. But in general, I see what you mean.
There's no like they can't attack, and then you can't just like put a creature into play at burst speed, like with the exception of 2 cards in the game, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Risen Mists and Jury Rig.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So until we see a rise in the diversity at which you can put things on the board, that's on the level of how quickly we're seeing things that can take them off the board. I think that's the answer. Like we need to see more things that can come into play at different times.
I think we need... So I think the aggro decks are really put in a kind of rock and a hard place situation right now between the mix of like... So you can't really have your aggro deck go too wide because there's so many sweepers.
Yeah.
But if your aggro deck doesn't go wide, then you get chump blocked. But if you try to make your aggro deck go wide, then you can't even go wide enough because Thresh Nasus can just go just as wide. And now all your creatures trade with all their creatures, but there's Drew cards, so now you lose, right? Like,
And also, Slay Triggers and other Nasus is huge.
Yeah, exactly. So like that like pinch between those 3 things where it's like, okay, I need to go fast enough to beat the slower decks, so I need small creatures. Okay, I have small creatures, which means I go wide. Okay, but I can't go wide because they get swept away.
Yeah.
Okay, so I need bigger creatures that can go over the top of them. Okay, but my bigger creatures aren't fast enough, right? Like,
yeah,
I'm not really sure what the solution to that problem exactly is, but I think that it's probably like more, like a little bit more of a reprieve or like ways to deal with like Avalanche, maybe like 2 mana cards like Ranger's Resolve or whatever,
or like Serve Iron. So that's what I was about
Yeah.
to say is that Overwhelm is actually the historic answer to this problem, right? Is that we can't go wide and we're going to get chump blocked. It's like, well, play, make sure all your creatures have Overwhelm, which is definitely good. It does lead to your draws being a lot more clunky. And so you kind of like run into this weird situation where like you don't have that many early drops. The early drops you could play aren't that good. Kind of putting you in a little bit of a bind. I think the answer, the best decks recently that I can think of have all been proactive. Like Thresh, Nasus, and TF Fizz stand out to me. Like TLC is obviously reactive and was very dominant. I guess Aphelios was reactive and very dominant. So actually, usually there's a balance between the two. But both TF Fizz and Thresh Nasus have been doing something like very fundamentally powerful and not just kind of like putting bodies on the board and hitting you with them. It's very attacking on a very different axis. I think that's the answer, and that's something that people don't like, is that unless your deck is really good at it, your plan can't just be ground pounders and some damage to the face. But when that deck is good enough, it's too good. Almost always, right? Like, it's just killing you way too fast. I think the game is healthier when there's a little bit of a balance there.
So basically, maybe it just needs to be slowed down a little bit and be a little bit harder to interact with in some way.
That kind of thing, yeah.
You know, like, which honestly would probably lead to more interesting games anyway, so.
I wouldn't mind seeing Ionia get buffed, you know, the elusive, the scary elusive package that got so heavily nerfed. Because I was thinking about it, and it feels like to make aggro, you know, to make a triple aggro lineup work in a tournament, it feels like we need another axis to play on. Like, we need... Yeah, and elusives feels like a way to do that. Like, making the Teemo burn decks good would be a way to do that.
Yeah, you could play, like, Teemo burn. You could play, like, TF Fizz elusives and Overwhelm, and you're a lot harder to target, right? Or whatever.
Or, like, Ezreal Teemo, I would call that a proactive strategy, although it has reactive elements as well.
I feel like every deck has some reactive elements. That's just kind of how deck building usually tends to go.
Right, right.
I don't know about that one, because that one particularly feels like prison to me, but like...
It is a little prison.
And like a prison deck, not like being in prison, but it does feel
I feel like I'm in prison when I'm playing against that deck. I don't know about you.
And then you play Lysandra, and they're locked in here with you. All right.
Yeah, what's our next question here?
The next question is, how hyped are you for Irelia, and what do you think will be her archetype?
I don't know why in
Extremely.
my head.
I'm so excited.
So yes, I'm really fucking into it. My first thought is that she's like 4 mana. I don't know why. Maybe I think of all new champions as 4 mana. Some weird. Remember when I pictured Zoe as a 5 mana 3/5? That was a good time.
I had forgotten about that.
Anyway, and that's like very excited for Ionia to get new dimensions. Ionia has a lot of really cool dimensions. Like, there are a lot of really cool Ionia things that aren't quite good enough. Like the Eye of the Dragon, Claw of the Dragon thing, like, was a deck that I played for a while that was cool. Like the double spell thing. This was like back with like 6 mana Lee Sin and good Vi. And it was like this like weird challenger spells control deck that was really cool. Doubling spells with Karma is cool. Elusives are cool, and a lot of it has been too good in the past and has had to gotten brought down a little bit. And I think that I'm very excited to see what else there is.
So if there's one thing that I've been pretty consistently right about in this game, it's that the devs are really good at their job.
Yeah.
And people, I mean, Ionia has been like laughably unplayable for quite a while now, and everybody's talked about it. The devs know it, right? Like, this is the first time that we're really getting a lot of Ionia cards that have the potential to be quite good. I think they're going to be pretty pushed, and they're going to be good because people are going to want to play. Like, I mean, like, can you imagine the memes on Twitter if Irelia gets posted and she's just laughably bad, and all of her cards are too? Yeah. Like, there's no way. Like, these cards are going to be good, so I'm very excited.
Yeah. I mean, like, think about it. What was the last Ionia champion?
Lisa,
Lulu.
right?
It was Lulu.
Oh yeah,
It was Lulu in the like second part of
Batch,
the Targon release.
yeah.
Like, it wasn't the initial Targon release, I don't think, or maybe it was. But like, that was a Targon release, a Felios, all of Shurima release from now. Like, that was a while.
It's been about as long as Ionia's been laughably bad.
Yeah, exactly. And it was really good back then. And it's very, and you know, this is the first time designing a lot of new Ionia cards, so that's always exciting.
So what do we think about her archetype? What do you think,
Let me
Nico?
paint you a picture, right? So Irelia, she makes blades. This is the one thing we know about her, right? We know that she probably interacts with a blade unit that is obliterated outside of combat.
Yeah.
Now,
That seems likely.
is it when I leave combat? Is that what it is? Yeah.
It is
excellent.
when I leave
So
combat, obliterate me.
I'm gonna make the extreme leap of judgment that she makes them before combat, because that will play very well with support, and Ionia support is, you know, kind of
True.
its thing. The one thing that makes it super unique, at least. Well, it's not, outside of that, but whatever. Lulu
Best
just
support
got
card's
buffed.
Targon. Rip Ionia.
Yeah, whatever. It's fine. Lulu just got buffed, okay? So I'm predicting there's going to be a very good Lulu Irelia deck because you're going to be able to support onto the blades.
That's
That's my hot prediction. I think that Lulu is a very good champion right now, and I think that Irelia is going to play very well with Lulu because these blades are going to be made outside of combat.
Yeah.
So, I like where your head's at. The thing that I find awkward about your take is that in my head, I don't know what you guys think her mana cost is going to be, but in my head, I don't know why. My thought immediately was 7 mana.
Whoa.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
more expensive than Anivia.
I'm leaning like
It was in my head. There were 2 options. It was either 2 mana or 7 mana, and I was leaning more towards 7. I don't know why.
I want to sell you on split the difference.
I don't think it's going to be 5.
I think it's going to be 5.
I don't think it's going to be 5.
And here's why.
Okay.
So here, I think it's going to be 4 or 5. One of the two.
I could see 4, but I don't think it's going to be 5.
Here's why. I think that Ionia is desperately in need of a champion that has the ability to win the game. Right? The only one they have is Lee Sin. That's the only one that sees play.
It's the best part about Ionia.
It's the best part about Ionia, right? If we're trying to make a successful Ionia champion, what are the devs going to look at? It's a 5-mana champion that can win the game. Like I think that's what Irelia is going to be. It's going to be a 4 or 5 mana champion that you can build around and that will win you the game. If
Like
if
Zed,
you can
but
do
like
the
a
thing.
little less vulnerable kind of
Yeah,
thing.
I'm something like maybe goes a little wider than Zed, does a slightly different thing than Zed, but like in a kind of similar vein. I expect her to be more mana than Zed, just because Zed's like, I don't know. I guess this is my prediction. Obviously, I don't have any real evidence to back any of this up. But
Yeah.
that's my gut feeling.
I hope you're right because part of the reason I went 7 is because I was thinking about the distribution of mana costs in Ionia, and I thought
That's fair.
And I thought not 5 because Lee Sin is 5. I thought
Not 6.
not 3, not 6 because definitely not 3 because we have Zed and we have Lulu. Not 6 because we have Karma and
Old Leeson.
and I don't. What else is there?
I think that's it. There's
There's no way.
there's
That's
Yasuo. He's 4.
Yasuo.
Yeah. You're
Yep.
forgetting about Yasuo, you fool.
Oh boy, are
Oh
we.
boy. Yeah. No. You're actually. Yeah. It could be 4.
Sad Yasuo.
We don't have a 4-mana champion, so.
Yeah, man, poor Yasuo.
But I think that as far as her archetype, I like the support idea. That makes actually a lot of sense, given that these are little 1/1s that can get supported and get real big. I think I actually like that idea better than my initial take of she has quick attack and sends the blades at things.
I thought that was cool too.
That was
Yeah.
really cool, I think. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what her archetype will be.
I think
but
it's going to be the like similar to the like creatures entering the battlefield matters, because like she's going to make these like 1-mana 1/1 blade creatures. Basically, she's probably going to make multiple
Shen.
of them.
Shen's the other one. I was
Shen.
like over
Oh,
here in
we
the
forgot
tank.
about Shen, the
Like
good one.
Yasuo, Zed, Karma. What was the other OG one? Shen.
I saw someone's
Us.
take on Twitter that they were like, Ionia field musicians. It's going to be broken. Don't at me.
I saw
And,
that too.
I'm
That
in.
could-
I'm in.
Could very well be true.
I'm off
so
that.
in.
I'm off that. But
So
anyway, I
sick,
don't know.
dude.
I feel like there's like Navori
Conspirator.
Blade Conspirator. There's the 2-mana 2/1 that gets bigger.
Greenglade Duo.
Greenglade Duo, right? Maybe we can put a bunch of creatures into play and grow all our things. Could be good. All right.
I think. Here's what it is. Here's my last prediction. Sorry to take up the time.
No, yeah,
I
fire
think she's
away.
a 5/5 because I think it's going to be field musicians into Irelia, and Irelia makes 2 blades. That's my prediction.
All right.
Oh, I
That's a hot
100%
take.
agree with the 2 blades thing.
Because then
hot take.
she on her own will trigger field musicians. Draw a card to fill your spell mana.
That could be good. Could be good. All right. What's our next one, Hugh?
The next one is, which of the current meta decks do you hope dies when the new expansion releases?
Huh. This is a fun question. Let's start with Nico. What do you think, Nico?
Oh God, putting me on the okay. The current meta decks.
What do you think?
Hold on, let me pull up Runeterra IR and
For me,
You have
I
a snap
think it's
answer?
I really like Thresh Nasus. It's a little too good, but deck is very fun. Might just be TLC.
I mean, there's literally nothing that I hope dies. Like, to answer the question, like I am not the kind of person who likes to see a deck actually like disappear off the face of the earth, unless it truly is a heinous play pattern. I think TLC could stand to be taken down a notch, and probably so could Thresh Nasus.
It gets the closest. I agree.
I think TLC is the only deck that. TLC is the only deck that has close to a toxic play pattern currently, I think.
I agree.
So
Yeah, I agree.
Thresh Nasus is probably too good.
Thresh Nasus might be too good, but I don't want it completely annihilated, right? Like, if it's too good, that's fine. We can nerf a
Thresh
couple
incoming,
cards. That's
that would
fine.
be weird.
Whatever.
Nah, it's atrocity, guaranteed.
Yeah, it's going to be atrocity, probably.
They're just gonna make it slow.
I hope not. I hope they just bump the mana up by 1 first.
That'd probably be better. But it feels like it's gonna be a slow thing.
If they just make it 7 mana, not being able to atrocity twice in the same turn is like a big deal.
That
I
is a
think.
big deal. I didn't actually think about that being.
And you can only ever Nasus Atrocity on 10.
On 10,
mana, 3
on the
spell
full mana, yeah. And you wouldn't be able to have any ever mana. Like,
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. I think I want it to be Thresh Nasus personally.
You want that to be the deck that dies?
Yeah.
Why?
Just I hate it.
I really don't like playing against its play pattern that much as well.
It's okay. So
I don't know. This
To-
just sounds like a little nitpicky, but
to
like,
elaborate.
I don't hate it or anything.
I hate it because it has no. It just doesn't feel like it has a weak turn.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair.
At no point in the game, I'm afraid of every single turn that gets played with that deck. Every
Yeah.
single turn, I'm like, there's a thing they can do on turns 1 through 10 that I'm terrified of,
Yeah, that's totally fair.
and that
The
is
deck
not true
really, really
of
good.
any other deck. I don't think.
I agree. Yeah.
Like TLC's turn 2, you're not scared of,
Yeah,
right?
no.
Like
No.
I mean, TLC's turn before 7, I'm not scared of.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's no way you
I mean,
can die.
I'm talking like Avalanche turns, Trundle turns.
Oh
like,
yeah, yes.
But they don't have a turn 1, that's for sure.
Yeah,
turn
exactly.
1, turn 2, turn 5, 4. Like,
None of that matters, yeah.
Yeah, every other deck in the game has weak turns that I can probably.
and that's a big part of why Nasus Thresh is so hard to target. Like, it also doesn't have decks that it's particularly weak to.
Yeah, yep.
Besides, like, Tom Raka.
It also draws a bunch of cards. It makes a bunch of creatures. It has late game inevitability. It has life
And the deck's
gain.
not unbeatable. It's doing all this, like, 55% of the time powerfully.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's just slightly better. Like, you'll get avalanched a couple times in some games, and then look at your board of, like, this is my personal gripe with the deck. I have, like, Blighted Caretaker, Spirit Leech, Glimpse, like, Black Spear, and my board is just, like, a Thresh and a Nasus.
Yeah, you just have
and it's
nothing
like a
you can
5/5
do,
Thresh,
yeah.
And it's like a 3/2 Thresh and a 5/5 Nasus, and I'm like, guess I'm sacking my own dudes.
We're done here, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just there's a certain kind of feel bad that comes from playing into a deck and realizing that there's no really good effective avenue for attack. Like everything else for the most part, you're like, okay, there's this one little thing, there's this one little weakness in this game
totally.
that I can sort of gun for this. And Thresh Nasus doesn't feel like it has any real sizable chinks in its armor.
Yeah, totally.
I agree. What's next?
The next question is Shadow Isles is currently dominant, to put it mildly, and seems to have the best tools. Oh, sorry. The last question was from Dragon, by the way. This question is from Carinal. Shadow Isles is currently dominant, to put it mildly, and seems to have the best tools at all ends of the spectrum of aggro, grinding, and control. Do you think this is the fault of a few problematic cards or the problem with the region's design? And as a quick follow-up, how could that be addressed without hurting their identity?
I just want to say that Shadow Isles has been one of, if not the best region since beta.
Yeah.
It has always been good. The things that it's doing are very inherently powerful, like the Rekindler, or like also a ton of great cards on rate, like Glimpse, Vile Feast, Withering Wail, even Vengeance. It has a lot of unique effects and some of the best, most efficient cards in the game. Like, the region is just awesome, and I actually think it's a really good design rather than a really bad design. It might need more holes. If I was a developer looking at this game, I might be like, there are very significant holes in the other regions. So either we need to do something to patch those, or nerf Shadow Isles. Its biggest hole is being bad interacting with elusives and not having particularly resilient creatures. Like, it doesn't have a lot of like 4/4s for 3 or whatever.
Yeah, that's its like. I think it's like holes that it has like really good explosive early aggressive creatures, and it's got these like big control-y spells, but it doesn't really have a whole lot in the middle.
Yeah,
like it doesn't have a good mid-range plan. It has no staying power.
It turns out when your deck, like, that's the most common thing that every other region has, which I think just makes Shadow Isles like a really good complement to almost every other region. Because if your region, like, let's say we're playing Demacia, right? Like, we can have the Shadow Isles really aggressive starts with the good mid-rangey creatures from Demacia,
Grizzled Rangers and Lucians. And,
this is kind of like the Scan Scouts deck or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, this was an ephemeral deck before, right?
Yeah, or like the Lucian Hecarim deck, right? It's kind of like that, right? And it also has the ability to pair with Freljord and be the control half of this big Trundle deck,
right? Like, being the mid-rangey units.
Yeah, exactly. The Freljord package is all the mid-range, and then you late game it out with your Spectral Matrons and your Ruination and Vengeances and stuff like that, right? So
or Commander Ledros.
It feels kind of like this region when it's not just destroying creatures with good spells. Feels kind of like it needs to fire off a round and then reload and then fires off another, like a cannonball, basically.
Interesting.
And it needs to alternate between big turns and non-turns.
Setup turns, yeah.
Yeah.
Like play a Cursed Keeper turns versus like the Blighted Caretaker at Black Superior Dude.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it has that weird play pattern where it's just like, nothing really happened. And then you're dead. And then nothing really happened. And go ahead.
Yeah,
Nico.
go ahead.
I feel, if anything, the biggest, I mean, like the reason why I feel like SI is just a little maybe too good on the aggro front. I don't feel it's too good on the control front.
I tend to agree.
I agree,
Is because its plays are just so mana efficient, and it hits a little too hard. Like,
Cursed Keeper plus 0 mana 3/2
Ravenous Butcher
or 3 mana 6 power.
Yeah.
it's pretty sick. Like, it just puts the opponent to 10 on turn 3, even if they didn't do anything on turn 1. Like, man.
Absolutely.
And Saplings having Challenger.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
For real.
It's just a little too mana efficient and hits a little too hard for what it does on the aggro front. That's what I would say if I was going to answer
Are we
that
anticipating a nerf to Cursed Keeper? That card's already been nerfed once, by the way. Ravenous Butcher, Blighted Caretaker.
I was going to say Blighted Caretaker is where the nerf goes.
That's general public
Make it
opinion,
cost
too.
4 mana and be a 2/2?
Sorry, I shouldn't have said Blighted Caretaker. I should say Saplings. I think Saplings is where the nerf goes, which nerfs Blighted Caretaker.
You think that Saplings are going to be 1/1s?
They're going to lose Challenger.
That just I don't think that's ever going to happen. Because they don't do that. They don't change how a card works. Like that Maokai just
That's true. I
wouldn't
forgot
do
Maokai made
anything.
Saplings.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that doesn't work because Maokai also makes... Because in my mind, I was like, okay, it's only Blighted Caretaker and...
random spells.
Root, whatever, Sapling Burst.
If they made Blighted Caretaker like a 4 mana 4/1, like same stats as Spirit Leech or whatever, I think it'd be totally fine.
I think I could also just make it a 3 mana 1/1.
That too. That would help.
That seems way more likely. The fact that it can actually trade into things.
Yep,
Yeah,
is
it's
very
pretty gross.
good. Honestly, I would point at Cursed Keeper to be the card that would get the nerf because it feels like it's usually the cause of most of the busted hit you too hard starts.
Yeah, none of it's
Could see
great.
that, too.
Or that or Ravenous Butcher.
Without a
Maybe
4/3.
make Ravenous Butcher a 2/2.
Then that card is really, really bad.
Yeah, but it's too good right now. So
3/1 maybe.
3/1 maybe would be okay.
Everything die to
Yeah.
Ice Shard, Withering Well, TF red card.
3/1
Yeah.
is a much better change than 2/2.
Yeah, probably you're right.
Yeah.
So, just a little bit more fragile. Make it a little more fragile. Make it hit a little less hard. I think something along
A
those
big part of
lines.
their identity is fragility.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Ephemerals and
Weak units
ephemerals
like
is-
Spirit Leech is a 4/1.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2/1s. Yeah.
You're sacrificing a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
We could also just make Spirit Leech a 3/1. That's another.
I
that's
don't
a
think
little tweak.
Spirit Leech is that much of a problem.
I don't think it is either. But like,
yeah.
there's a bunch of. We have a lot of knobs to turn in this deck.
That's totally true.
And
yeah.
in this region, it doesn't have to be one card. Like that's another problem. It's not any one card.
Yeah, you can like twiddle. It's not like it's clearly Burblefish and Twisted Fate. Like, and even that deck was hard to nerf. This deck is even harder because it's just like so many things that are good.
Exactly.
I would really love to see what they did for Aphelios do for this deck, where like with this patch they turn a couple of the knobs just a little bit, and then if it's still too good in a couple weeks, we can evaluate it then.
Nuke it from
Absolutely
orbit.
agree. Yeah.
I hope they don't.
Another
nuke it
great
from
lab
orbit,
game I
but-
had. I had spells
goodness.
cost one less and created card cost one less. So I was playing like, and whenever you cast a spell, Aphelios gets +1/+1. So I was like playing pre-nerf Aphelios, but they were all 1 mana. Good times.
Nice.
Good times.
All right. What's our next one, Hugh?
Our next one is from Twilight. Now that we've confirmed Irelia as a champion, it's a likely mechanic that she can summon multiple blades in a round. Go wild with your imagination. How will this work with field musicians?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
this was
hit
the
the
tweet
nail
we
on
were
the head.
referencing, I think.
No, I wasn't. That's really funny.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a common thought. I think it'll be really cool. I'm excited for it.
I've previously gone on record saying that field musicians might be one of the literal worst cards in the game. I am not.
I still
changing my
disagree. I
stance on
think that there's some use cases.
I think that card is hilariously bad.
So one of
And-
the worst
and
cards in your
there's
game,
just
so like
no
D
way.
tier?
There's just no way this card is constructed playable.
What does
I
he
think-
even
I
do
mean,
again?
like-
I forgot.
If it's like
a
a
3-mana,
4-mana
1/3.
1/4.
I think it's a 3-mana one.
No, it's a 4-mana
It's a
one.
4-mana
4
1/4.
mana. It is awful. It is like a 4-mana 1/4 that says whenever you summon your 3rd unit each round,
Yeah.
refill your spell mana and draw a card.
Oh, it's got a tune.
it has a
Excuse
tune.
you.
And it has a tune. Yeah. So, I mean, it's unless Irelia like really goes off with this card for some reason, and I mean really goes off. Like I just the problem is that like you need to summon 3 units and then you get your spell mana back,
Hey man, all I'm saying
and
is
then you
that-
draw one. It's just not worth it.
All I'm saying is that Blighted Caretaker cycles now.
And makes 3 spell mana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also good with the Shadow Isle spell that makes 3/1/1 ephemerals. Like maybe this is where it's at, guys.
We've had this. We've had the ability to play this bad deck for a while, so maybe
Zed
Irelia will save
Hecarim.
us.
We've always wanted to play the bad ephemeral cards in Ionia. Oh, we're cooking with gas now.
We're cooking with something. I don't know if it's
Shark Chariots?
We're cooking with-
Oh my god, Shark Chariots.
Noble's New Brew, bad Ionia cards.
Oh yeah. Shark Chariot's not bad and it's not Ionia.
That's true.
Deathmark,
Oh,
however.
now that I think about it, they really jumped through some hoops to not make blades ephemeral.
Yeah,
Yeah, they did.
they did.
I wonder why. Probably so that it wouldn't just be busted with Hecarim or whatever.
Yeah.
It'd be a little weird if Hecarim was out here like buffing all your blades
No,
that Irelia
wait.
was using. That would feel like kind
Wait,
of a flavor fail.
you know what I actually think it is? I think this suddenly lends way more credence to my thought that Irelia sends these blades at things, because if she does that and they're ephemeral, these
you're right.
blades are dealing damage and disappearing.
Yeah, that makes
Interesting.
sense.
So suddenly, it makes way more sense for these things to be attacking, hitting for damage, and Irelia to also use them to augment her own attack.
Yeah. She has like a Lee Sin trigger that's like when something blocks her, she sends all the blades at it or something.
Something
Yeah, I like that
Yeah,
idea.
that's a good one too. I like that
And
as well.
that still works
Seems
with
cool.
support to a certain extent as well, because
Absolutely.
say they didn't block it, maybe it goes face.
Yeah, or if you could like turn the blade into a 4/4, like if Irelia like says like my blades strike my blocker or something, then like the 4/4 blade would strike the blocker.
Yeah, maybe she has
Maybe.
overwhelm. That
Who
would be a
knows?
little weird though.
That would be
Anyway,
a
we'll
little
see.
weird.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm excited no matter what.
Maybe she'll be another Ionian champion that you really want to give overwhelm.
Yeah.
All right, our next question is from Horstronaut with the other top candidate for what could have been question of the week. Do you have any tips for getting better at hand reading?
Interesting.
I love this question.
All right. So my best piece of advice is to ask yourself whenever you think I need to play around blank card. It probably happens multiple times a game for most Legends of Runeterra players. Just ask yourself if they would have cast that card this game yet, right? Like, you know, my immediate like headcanon is like let's say I'm trying to play around Nopify, right? Like, could my opponent have Nopify? Like, can I, cast this
Mystic Shot.
Mystic Shot. And it's like, well, they would have Nopified my Zenith Blade last turn, so they probably don't have Nopify, right? Like,
Yeah.
Did they cast the spell in the last couple of turns if they would have had it? And if the answer is no, like, they probably don't have it. That's kind of my, like, number one cheat, basically.
I think that's a really good tip.
To say.
I think. Go ahead, Nico.
Thank you. Sorry, it's tough when I'm not in the same room as you.
I know.
But I really like what Alex said, and then also I would say the other thing that I do is ask myself why my opponent made a certain play. And the best example that I can think of right off the top of my head is Zoe. So if my opponent played Zoe on turn 1, like say they don't have the attack token, right? So they're attacking on 2, and they play Zoe out on turn 1 and then open attack, right? Versus if they had played Zoe out on their second turn with 1 spell mana and 1 regular mana up. What does that represent differently? And the answer is it represents Pale Cascade. Right, exactly.
Absolutely.
So if they do it the second way, so they play Zoe out on turn 2 and then attack, well, they probably have Pale Cascade, or at least they're bluffing that they do. So in that way, you can try to read their hand, and so it's basically reading into why they made that like a play a certain way and what they could have based on how they played it.
Yeah, there's also a very frequent like, man, this was a weird attack from my opponent. Why did they make this attack? And the answer most of the time is actually, contrary to most people's opinion, not my opponent is bad. Usually the answer is my opponent is good and I'm bad. What am I not playing around? And that honestly that comes up more in Expedition than Constructed, because usually you know what's in your opponent's deck in Constructed.
Yeah.
Right. But, most of the time you should assume your opponent is pretty good. They probably didn't mess up. So if your opponent made a weird play, there's probably a reason.
And for me, it's always fun when these questions come up because I find myself realizing how weird I think compared to everyone else. Because one of my both of the things you guys mentioned, I do. By the way, it's not just I think weird. I also do those other things. But another thing I do is I always ask myself, what would I have wanted to do, or what would my opponent have wanted to do instead of what they did? And that sort of
narrows down.
It takes cards out of their hand. It's not I'm not, because the other two methods are trying to find a way to like put a card in their hand.
Yeah.
The other way, the way I kind of do this is I try and take cards out in my mind. I try and eliminate.
So if I may, like, let's take a like really obvious example. We're playing against TLC and it's turn 5. If they don't play Trundle, they probably don't have Trundle, right?
Right.
Yeah.
There's a very similar example on most other turns, right? Where if they didn't play, on turn 3, if they didn't play Catalyst of Aeons, they probably don't have Catalyst of Aeons, right? Like, you can expand that logic. There's obvious ones that stand out because they play them every game if they have them,
yes,
right? So, like, but you can absolutely apply that same logic to the less important cards in the matchup too.
Yeah. Like, you can, if you get in with your Zoe, you can assume that they don't have Sharp Sight for at least a couple turns until they've drawn a lot more cards, and you can kind of play like they don't have Sharp Sight. Another thing that just happened to me is kind of, you really want to know your opponent's deck. So my opponent played a Spirit Leech on turn 8 in Thresh Nasus. They sacked like a 0/1. So I was like, okay, I would be shocked if my opponent had Thresh or Nasus in their hand because they've just tapped below champion mana. And even if they do have those cards in my hand, I now know that they can't play them this round, so I can play accordingly.
Yeah, it's pretty likely they have a Black Spear, right? Like,
yeah,
instead.
yes. Or, yeah, correct.
Yeah, the scenario I was thinking of was usually comes up in my head is, did they play Mountain Goat on 2?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Because if
they would have.
Yeah, exactly. If you're on turn 2 and you have a Mountain Goat in hand and you didn't play it,
what were you doing?
Get help.
Yeah, like, why? There's no reason not to play the goat. You always goat.
Yeah. Even if you like see the Mystic Shot in their hand somehow.
Yeah, if it's face up, I'd play that goat.
Yeah, like,
well, unless my goat is the only way I'm winning. Like,
yeah, absolutely. Or yeah.
I think that's
I think
that's a solid
if there's
question.
any more questions,
Just like really thinking presently when you're playing a game, like
interrupted my question.
Yeah. There's one which was how would you ban? I'll let Alex say it.
Oh yeah, this one comes from Root in the Discord. They ask, how would you guys nerf TLC / The Watcher?
I would make the Watcher cost 3 mana when he's reduced.
Wow, you really
Interesting.
just never want to play against that deck again, don't you?
It can even be 1, but
Wait,
the reason
you
I
would
went
say-
to
Sorry, you would do what?
make it cost 3 mana when it's reduced, it doesn't cost
interesting.
0 now. The reason I want 3 is so you can't play an 8-drop and the Watcher.
Yeah, that seems like a massive damn nerf.
Yeah, I just
So,
at the
but
very
this
least
doesn't solve the Spectral Matron problem.
It kind of solves it.
kinda
It makes it
does.
so that you
You
can't
can't-
play a second Watcher.
that's the
in
thing.
that
That's the
round.
thing I take issue with. When you go Spectral Matron, make the Watcher copy, and then I deal with it, and then you're just like, ha ha ha, the 0 mana real
And then
one.
they deal with it, and they're like, fading memories.
Yeah, here's another one.
Exactly. I don't want that to happen more.
So you want like Vengeance or Runation to more usually
I want
interact with it?
I want to
basically?
be able to kill the Watcher and then have the dead Watcher not kill me.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I guess then the question is, how badly do you want to nerf the deck? Right? Because in my opinion, I think making it a 3-mana Watcher kills the deck. And I don't personally want to kill the deck. I think you could probably make it 1 mana. I actually do
You probably
like that
could.
nerf.
Yeah, I really don't hate the 1 mana nerf. My other option is maybe make it have to see 5, 8 plus drops
Yeah.
instead of 4, so that
And
you
not
can't.
change Lysandra.
Yeah,
Just level up,
so
yeah.
that you can't play Matron Watcher, and that it'll guarantee then that you have played the 4 for the Watcher, right? Like Matron Watcher itself will not create the Watcher being free, so you're gonna have to find like an extra ice pillar somewhere in the middle or whatever,
Or something.
yeah, you'll have to
And then
figure
that takes up
something
board
out,
space,
which takes
and
up
then it
board
gets-
space. Yeah, the real big nerf to that is that it takes up an extra board space,
Yeah.
which
Yes.
is like actually really relevant. Like I think it would make it much harder to combo if it was 5.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
5
like
is a
that.
very good nerf. I like that
So,
one too.
but yeah, but it kind of depends if your idea is wanting to be able to Spectral Matron it, like not liking that Spectral Matron on turn 8 is a kill, like Pillar Matron or Pillar Matron. But that kill is like realistically not that easy to pull off because, like we said before, if you have made an Ice Pillar, you need a Trundle, you need a Lysandra, and it has a landmark, and then the 2 Ice Pillars leaves you with you need to have killed one of your own units to be able to make
combo,
and
yeah.
have no other units played a Lysandra before, have an extra landmark sitting around, kind of nonsense. So it is pretty hard to pull off on actual turn 8.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
but-
I don't really draw a problem with the deck killing you sometimes on turn 8. I don't
Yeah,
really
it's turn
think the problem is that it can kill you on turn 8 through like 2 or even sometimes 3 pieces of interaction.
Yeah, which is pretty ridiculous.
exactly, and that was the idea, the reason for my idea for the nerf. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
All right, but what if what if we just made it an 11-16?
Yeah, what if it only had 10 power?
Well, I mean, one
would
toughness
honestly-
killed Fiora, so like, wouldn't it do the same to the Watcher? I'm just saying.
If the Watcher was 1 toughness, I do think it would be much worse.
wait,
Yeah,
If
Whoa,
it
whoa,
died
whoa.
to Mystic Shot, oh yeah.
I think
Watcher twisted.
no, it doesn't need to go down to 16. It needs to go down to 15
Okay.
because then it dies.
Skies
Aurelian
Descent.
The
Souls.
skies descend.
Dude, I lost
That's
the
the
game because
counterplay.
my Skies Descend could not kill 2 Watchers.
Wow.
Of course.
You hate to see it. All right, I've got a fun theoretical for you. What do you think the win percentage decrease in TLC would be if the Watcher was an 11-16 instead of an 11-17?
0.
Like 0.001%, or like maybe like do you think it would be like 0.1%, a 100th of a percent, like
I think it's
0 games ever?
I think
It'd be
about
like-
as many games. I think it would change about as much by about as small as margin as it took Nico to miss this top 32.
you motherfucker.
That sounds about right.
I think we have like 2 more.
I think that was.
No, we have
That was-
we have 2 more.
Oh, cool.
Beats asks if the seasonal were played as a single deck best through the sideboard.
I love this question.
Yeah.
Which decks do you feel like would be best suited for it? Nico?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh man. I mean, I actually think that TLC is the most easy and true answer. I think
Yeah, I was
control
gonna
decks
snap
are
that one off.
generally the ones that get a lot better when they have.
Then you have to win 3 games with TLC in an hour. Good luck.
Hey, if you could do it
Yeah,
with,
but, like,
miracles.
All you got to do is pass quickly.
I don't actually
Yeah.
think that TLC takes that long to play. Is the thing. Like it takes
It's
me
nice
a
that
long
you
time
just
because I'm
win the
bad,
game.
but.
Yeah, but like it takes a while because I tank so hard on every turn.
Yeah.
But if I played reasonably quickly, I mean the games end on turn 9 every game, so
Yeah, I think Thresh Nasus might also be a good answer. There are some like really cool tech cards, and there's just so many slots. Like you
Yep.
can just throw 3 Bakai Sand Spinners in your sideboard and like have the really powerful aggressive starts in the main deck or whatever. There's also just like a lot of like you can put all 3 Rite of Negations and all 3 Atrocities for the mirror, and like. You could
By the way, for those of
you
you-
could sideboard Kindreds in some matchups if that's good. It probably isn't,
Who-
but like.
Aren't familiar with a sideboard. The idea is that you have cards outside of your main deck, quote unquote, that you can bring in between games. It's just
Yeah.
it's a Magic thing.
Probably like 10
it
that
would
you
be
could
10
put in.
because
almost certainly. Yeah, I think that TLC has to be the right answer for this. Like, I mean, decks would bring tech cards to beat TLC in the like post board games, but you could like sideboard into Feel the Rush or whatever.
Oh
like,
my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Now that would be hot.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Or Ledroses that just wins the game that way.
Yeah, you. It'd be pretty easy to find any plan to win the game, I think.
And also, the sideboard options against exactly the Watcher just like aren't that good.
I mean, I'm sure
Like,
you could
there's no
put some
passage
in, but-
unearned for the Watcher,
Well, I mean, there is literal passage unearned.
but it only gets the Spectral Matron one. It doesn't get any
Yeah.
of the ones you play from your hand or Fading Memories.
True.
yeah.
Though I did lose a game to. Well, actually, I think I won this game anyway, but I almost lost a game to my opponent having passage unearned for my first Watcher, for my first Ephemeral Watcher, and then I played a second Watcher, and then it got like Vengeanced, and then I Lysandre's Entombed it, and then 2 turns later when my
that's pretty
Watcher came
sick.
back, he passage unearned it again.
Oh my goodness. That's so sick.
And I still won that game because I just had a flipped Lysandre and he was playing Go Hard, but I almost lost, so it was pretty hot.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, and for our last question from Codeman Jack, what is your take on the rumors of pre-flipped Malphite being a landmark?
I think by rumors, they might mean baseless speculation on the internet. Because I haven't heard any like confirmable rumors. I will say I'm pretty disappointed that that the other champion is Malphite because it's another Targon champion. Like we just got Zoe Aphelios. I guess we didn't get one in Shurima. So I guess they're like kind of due for one, but I would like much rather it be a random Noxus champion. But I guess that's because Riven is less impactful than Zoe, and they also got Aphelios.
We just got LeBlanc.
Oh yeah, whatever. No, LeBlanc is very important. I guess I don't mean Noxus. I guess I mean like
You mean Piltover's?
yeah, Piltover's on.
Actually, yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, Piltover's
But
on the other
Echo's
one that's been
Piltover.
really
Yeah, they
on,
only have
right? Yeah,
5
so-
champions, dude. What the heck?
Yeah, well, they're getting Echo.
No,
so.
PNZ has 6.
Oh, you're right. They have 6. I don't actually own a Vi, and I didn't hit show unowned.
You hate to see it. So let's see. I completely forgot the question. What was
Malphite
it? Malphite.
being a
Malphite's a
landmark.
rock.
That would be sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
into that.
into Malphite being a rock. More champion diversity, I'm into it. He'd probably be bad. If I get to advance the countdown counters on my Malphite, then maybe I'll have a reason to play Talia or any of these countdown cards.
Absolutely.
So, like, I'm really just begging for a reason to put all these sweet countdown cards into decks. So if Malphite gives it to me, then I'm all in.
I think that's the biggest credence to him being a landmark, because otherwise, like,
Yeah.
Also, chip working with him because Targon isn't really the landmark region.
Chip off the old block.
oh,
He definitely at least
He gets in for
makes-
chip damage.
I think he definitely at least makes or interacts with. I hate all of you. Interacts with landmarks. I wouldn't. be
Now that
surprised
you've
if he
said
made
it-
landmarks.
absolutely 0% chance that that is not a Malphite line when you play Malphite and there is a chip on the board.
Oh, true.
Oh,
Chip
yeah.
off the old block.
Yeah, of course. It has to be.
I wonder what his like champ spell ult will do because it knocks up everybody in League.
What's the it's unstoppable force, right? That's,
Yeah,
that's the name of the ability.
game.
What does Malphite's unstoppable force do?
Something like Singular Will.
This is my fun question for the room.
Unstoppable force.
So like the Malphite signature spell, Malphite's unstoppable force. Maybe it's like
It's hard to. It's hard
it
to
could be like judgment.
It's hard to
basically.
translate knock up into Legends
recall.
are-
It's literal recall. That's why Yasuo was built around stun recall.
Oh,
It's like a mix between stunning and recalling. Yeah.
That makes so much. I was today years old when I when that occurred.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
You bounce, you knock up or stun things, and then he hits them.
Oh my
That's what
god.
the ultimate does.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yes, absolutely.
Could definitely work. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Noble's brain is firing at another level. It's incredible.
Alrighty. Well, with that, I think unless anybody has any last points here before we wrap it up for this week's episode, anybody have anything they want to say? All right. Well,
Just that we have some stuff in the works. New patch coming out. We're gonna keep streaming, keep trying to make content, and hopefully have set up organized scrims/tournaments in our Discord more often, and kind of just keep moving forward, helping people get competitive advice and get chances to play matches.
Yeah, we've been streaming 6 days a week at twitch.tv/champselectpodcast. So if you're interested in checking that out, the link will be in the description below. Our Discord, this is where we got all of our listener questions every week. There's constantly people talking. It's a great place to be, especially during spoiler season, because everybody's always talking about new cards and brewing, and it's hype. So I highly recommend joining the Discord if you aren't already a member of it. I want to thank Mr. ClosingThyme Nico for coming on the show today. Thank you, Nico, for being
Of course. I had a great time. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure he'll be around in the future, and we want to thank everybody for listening to this episode of Champ Select. If you enjoyed it, be sure to let us know. Without further ado, we'll see you all next week. I'm going to have to figure out a new intro, but I'll figure it out.
Why a new intro?
We have a new person.
Yeah. New guest, just a guest. All right.
Sure.
I mean, it's not going to be that different. I'm just going to have to say a third thing. It's going to be weird.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well.
Yeah. So just do the co-hosts Noble Hugh, and then
And I'll be like,
and then
It'll
and
be
today we're
very
talking. We
exciting.
have a special guest seasonal tournament.
Yeah. He'll figure it out. I believe in him.
You got to say hot off a 33rd place finish at the NA seasonal.
That's actually so funny. I'm saying that for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, ready? All right. 3, 2, 1.